Put your hands together for Donald Trump's worst nightmare, Destiny.
Yeah, so I believe that the Trump administration is drastically better when it comes to the immigration policies, immigration in general. So the stats back this up. So if you look at under the Biden administration, we had 10 million illegal immigrants as far as encounters over there at the border. That's 200,000 illegal immigrants per month that were over there at the border, 15,000 per day, et cetera. Even if you look at the deportation, I believe Biden deported around 3.5 million illegals compared to how many illegals he let into the country, which is around 5 million. So even on that basis, it was still around like 1.5 million that remained, you know, if you count the deportations. So my first question here is, especially because I believe that deterrence is a huge part when it comes to immigration policies, what do you think Joe Biden was doing to deter so many illegals to come to the border compared to the Trump administration now?
I mean, if the argument is ever like, who's doing the best to deter people from coming to the country, I think Donald Trump is doing a really fantastic job of that in a lot of different ways.
Well, why do you think, like, Biden
So, like, the immigration thing, I think that there are arguments that you can make about immigration. I don't think conservatives care about any of them. I think there was kind of like an unfortunate reality that it played in two different ways. So one, at the end of Trump's first term, he benefited really heavily from Title 42, the ability to heavily restrict the border based on medical emergency, and then ignoring like even the Title 42 powers. A lot less people were just migrating anywhere because a lot of people were just staying home because COVID was kind of wrecking everything. And then after COVID ended, I think that when people started to flock to the border again, this kind of asylum loophole started to get discovered. And then
which asylum? Oh, you're talking about yeah, people claiming asylum and at the border, right?
Kind of, yeah, but more so than that. That if you claim asylum and they don't have the judges to adjudicate your case, then by law they issue you a slip and they say, well, show up to your case, and then you can just kind of.
And they stayed in the United States, right?
Yeah, this is kind of like the catch and release thing, basically.
Yeah.
I think that there might be an argument that Biden waited too long to kind of try to address this substantively, and it became a huge thing in the last year. But I guess the big issue that I have is I just don't believe conservatives when they say this was a real problem for the United States. I think a lot of it was just showmanship. I hear a lot of different numbers tonight. You said 10 million. I've heard some say 20 million. I've heard just all sorts of different numbers thrown around about this. The thing that bothers me is that when there was like an actual huge piece of legislation that would go to addressing these issues, Donald Trump explicitly told, and this isn't like a conspiracy, like Ted Cruz and other senators and congressmen just like outwardly talked about this, Donald Trump told people to just nuke the bill related to the immigration stuff, right? So this is a bill that would have given like a congressional cap. Now, obviously, Donald Trump has done this via executive order.
Yeah, he's been doing that already.
But this would have given us like a new law from Congress. It would have given us more judges to actually adjudicate all of the asylum claims and to catch up on everything. I think it would have.
No, Destiny, I totally understand all that. But at the same time, when you're saying, well, I just don't believe that there's 10 million encounters at the border, this was on paper. If you look at the stats here, it was 10 million encounters.
Well, it's not that I don't believe that there weren't 10 million. I just don't believe it was that big of a problem.
Yeah, but you don't think 10 million encounters at the border was a big issue, Destiny, during that time? Like, you don't find that to be a problem at all?
I think that if there is a very substantial problem, then I think that you would have jumped at, not you personally, but I think people would have jumped at the bit to actually fix it. And the fact that people were content to completely nuke any legislation.
Yeah, but that bill came in 2024. Why didn't they propose it and right when Biden took office, when he had the House and the Senate, if they were so concerned about the border?
If I said that I was dying of dehydration at 2 p.m. and somebody didn't show up with water until 6 p.m. and then I said I was going to wait until the next day for the Kool-Aid,
yeah, but whose fault was it that didn't give you the water in the first place, right?
It's not about whose fault is it?
Well, it kind of is, though.
Well, the question was, how strong is the claim? Is it a really big problem?
It is a really big problem,
If we can push it off
yes.
for 6 more months, seems like it's not that big of a problem, no?
Well, if you could push it off for another 6 months, the thing is that once they did that border bill, I would say, was there anything in that bill that was going to deter illegal immigrants at the border?
Yes.
What was it?
So one, it would have given what was eventually done through executive order, depending on the legality of that. I guess I don't know where the challenges are to that. It would have given an official cap for shutting down the border if too many people had come in.
What's too many people?
I think it was if the average was 5,000 over a 1 week period. If it exceeded that, then the government had the ability to legally just shut down all asylum claims.
So then they definitely would have shut it down, especially on average 200,000 illegal immigrants coming to the border, right?
Yeah.
So okay,
but that bill was blocked.
But at the same time, Trump was able to get that done without any type of bill.
Trump was able to get a lot of stuff done,
hold on, but why didn't Joe Biden get it done without a bill then?
Because it's better to do stuff legislatively than it is through executive order.
So then you're okay. So you're
Wait,
telling me that.
hold on, wait, real quick. Do you understand that it's hard
no,
to believe that
but
it's a real
I totally
problem
understand
that
that it's
they shut down
better.
the legislation?
Of course, it's better to do it through a
Well,
bill.
yeah, but if they shut down the legislation, how can I believe there's a real problem?
Yeah, but however, a real problem. 10 million illegal immigrants
that's a
encounters
number.
at the border. That's a problem, right? You would agree with
well,
that?
is it? If it is, why did they shut down the bill?
Well, again, they shut down the bill probably because based off what you were saying that they're going to run off of that. In this case, it's talking
when you say
politics.
gonna run off,
but
it
even
sounds like it's not a
Democrats,
real problem then, right?
Democrats agreed that this was an issue. Kamala Harris even agreed this was an issue.
We're not talking
like
about
I know
whether
you're
it's an issue,
saying
we're talking about if it was like a
you don't care
massive
about it,
problem.
but however, Democrats did.
That's not. So whether or not
No, it is. Would you agree that Democrats did find this to be an issue? Yes or no?
An issue is not what the Republicans sold it as. They sold it as a massive issue, an important issue.
Yeah.
And I'm asking, how can something be an important issue if there's legislation that would address it in like 4 different ways, and Republicans are like, let's like go ahead and shelve this for 6 months until we win the election? Seems like it's not an important
because
issue.
at the same time, if they're running off of this, of course, they brought it in 2024, right? Why didn't they do it in 2021 or 2020 when they had the House and the Senate, if this was so important to the Democrats as well?
Why didn't Trump pass legislation for it in 2019 or 2020?
Because again, we had the crisis at the border.
In 2021, we had another huge crisis. I don't know if you remember, but there was like COVID, right? And then there was all of the fallout related to that. Immigration was not at the front of people's minds. We had things like inflation that we were worried about. We had all of our huge supply chain disruption.
Okay, so I don't want excuses. I want results here. Again, Joe Biden.
Results? I'm sorry, wait. What legislation has Trump gotten passed in any of his 5 years now in office related to the border?
Related to the border?
Nothing. So you don't care about
hold
results.
on,
There's nothing.
but again,
It's virtue signaling right now.
How is he virtue signaling?
Because there's nothing but virtue to signal to.
At the same time, when he mitigated the borders completely down 99% when it comes to the encounter rates, he did that to executive order. Why couldn't Biden do the same thing? Hold on, why couldn't Biden do the same thing if you're complaining about a border bill that they offered in 2024 when they could have done it in 2020 or 2021?
Because typically Democrats don't like to rule via executive order the same way that Donald Trump does.
Okay, so they don't like to use executive orders, is what you're
way
saying,
that Trump
in order
does.
to fix a problem that was already there during the Biden administration, right?
The same way that Trump does. Correct.
Okay, Destiny.
Do you recognize that it's probably better to have like legislation and powers from Congress to regulate the border rather than doing what Donald Trump does, which is to declare a national emergency in every single part of the world in order to get his agenda passed, I say, but in order to rule by executive fiat. That's not good. The fact that we're doing unilateral tariff policy from the executive office, the fact that we're doing all of our border policy from the office by declaring emergencies. Like, well, I'm curious. Do you think there's a national emergency with fentanyl coming in from Canada?
Yeah, well, of course it's a national emergency when it comes to the southern border.
Canada?
Well, fentanyl in general, yes, it is.
It's not about it in general. Is there a national emergency from fentanyl coming in from Canada?
Yes, it is, Destiny, but really quick. But really quick.
You're a Canadian drug dealer. Where is Pangburn?
So really quick.
How much fentanyl did you make this
I am the Canadian drug dealer.
Okay. Anyways, the point is that I'm trying to make though, Destiny. If you're saying, well, it's not a problem at all, but at the same time,
when did I say that? Did I say that?
You did say that. You
said
that.
I said it was not a massive problem, and that's evidenced by the fact that when there was legislation shut it down, the Republicans had no problem kicking to the curb for 6 months.
But that's not the case, Destiny. Again, yes, I would say that they were running off the bill. Could you get power and get Donald Trump in office and then fix the border with executive orders, especially when you want to do it the root cause, right? The root cause would be encounters. Obviously, the more encounters you have, the more people are going to stay after the administration's over. Wouldn't you say?
So I'm curious.
Hold on.
Are you happy?
The numbers show this, Destiny. The numbers show this. Even with 10 million there, we had 50% of them stay within the United States interior after Joe Biden left office. So yes, that's an issue right there. At this point, we have 25 million unaccounted immigrants here.
What you're talking about is by design, though, right? If they came in and they have a receipt waiting to have their asylum claim adjudicated, of course they're going to stay here.
How many of them were claiming asylum out of the 10 million?
That was the whole loophole for them getting in.
Dude, how many of them claimed asylum?
But my guess is the majority of them, it's like over 80-90% of the illegal people that came in did it. They say illegal, but it was by claiming asylum.
Okay, so you actually believe 90% of the 10 million people that were here were claiming asylum,
seeker claims,
even though they traveled all the way over here, paying thousands of dollars to the cartels to get over here, and then they snuck in here illegally?
Are you claiming that they are illegitimate asylum claims, or are you claiming that they're not
illegitimately? Yes, of course, obviously.
Okay, how do you determine
but how do you know they're legitimate?
You have a judge that adjudicates it. That's the whole point. But we don't have that system now. So you talk about the 10 million people that are here that are supposedly a huge issue. We have no way to work through that backlog because we didn't get additional judges. We didn't get additional funding. We didn't get additional resources. All things that were part of the original bill that would have been passed if the Republicans shut down. Instead, we got an executive order saying, no more people coming through the border, which is fine. I guess it works for that. But do you think that by the end of these 4 years...
it solved the problem right there off the bat.
That's solving the problem. What about all the people that are here?
Yes, when it comes to encounters at the border, yes, it solved the problem. We saw this through the stats here.
That's not the only only problem? You just said there are 10 million people here. Isn't that a problem? All the asylum seeker claims that came through here?
Well, 5 million under Joe Biden, right? He did deport 3 million, et cetera, and we have this. But at the same time, I'm saying that, yes, we now that we've shut down the border, which Trump is massively better on, you know, like you can acknowledge that, right, Destiny?
I don't even know what your goal. Do you think that anybody should?
Wait, hold on.
I don't know what your goal. When you say better,
are you denying the fact that we had 7,000 people encountered at the border in March compared to 200,000 on average under Joe Biden? Do you think that's better? Wouldn't you say that's better?
I wouldn't average Joe Biden because on the years it massively came down year after year because the massive spike was immediately after COVID.
In January it was 50,000. Is that still better?
In January of what year?
Of 2025, Biden's last month.
I would have to see the numbers because Donald Trump would have been president for 1/3 of the month on that anyway. So but the question is, if you already have 10 million here illegally, if you think that everything is fine now, if Donald Trump goes the next 4 years and he doesn't pass any legislation or do anything else at the border besides a single executive order saying, you know, nobody's allowed to come in and claim asylum and all of that,
sure,
is that a success to you? That's good?
I would say that because we already have that issue already set in stone as far as the encounter rates here at the border, I would say, yeah, I would say we would start working on a bill in order to get that done on a permanent matter at least by the end of his administration. If he doesn't do that, I would say, yeah, that's a failure. But definitely the bigger failure here would still be Joe Biden.
Okay, I'm happy with that. We'll see that by the end of the 4 years. No, because they had a bill ready to go that Congress was ready to sign, that the president was ready to sign, and Donald Trump sent a DM to Ted Cruz, to the rest of the Republicans. They openly talked about it. They said, you know, Donald Trump says that we shouldn't pass this bill. And then all of a sudden, the Republican Dream Bill that was authored by Langford, a Republican in the Senate that they were all happy with, all of a sudden, all of them said, well, nah, you know, Donald Trump doesn't want to go this way with things because Donald Trump doesn't want to go any way with anything. And all he wanted to do was sign an executive order to band-aid the issue at the border and not have any kind of comprehensive deal with anything with the people here right now or anything else.
This is obviously playing politics, right? You could say that, especially
do you know
when
what
it
you
comes
play
to policies.
Politics with? You play politics with issues that aren't that important. That's not that big of an issue then.
No, it is a big issue.
Clearly
here.
not. If they could kick it down the road for 6 months, that's not that big of an issue. What else? What are the equivalent issues to do that with?
Let me tell you this. When it came to voters in general, you do know the number one issue with people that voted, especially for Donald Trump, was because of the border, right? You know that, right?
The number one issue with kindergartners is they think they don't have enough nap time. I mean, that's not telling me anything.
That is telling you something. Look at the polls, Destiny.
That's
See,
fine.
for you to just ignore,
conservatives think that 25% of Americans are trans just because of the voters think they care about a particular thing.
Name one conservative that thinks 25% of the population is trans.
I don't know. Ask people to do a poll like
you're just making shit up off the bat.
I'm not making shit up off the bat. It's literally a YouGov poll. You can literally go look it up.
You are making shit up, Destiny. That's the point here. Is that it's hard to talk to you when you're saying stupid statements like Republicans believe 25% of the population is trans.
We reached a point of agreement. reach a point of agreement, I'm happy. So you're saying that at the end of this administration, after 4 years, if there's no immigration legislation, you would consider that his stance on the border was a failure?
I would say that this would be a failure for sure.
Okay,
but wouldn't we agree that under Joe Biden, allowing, especially the numbers that we see from Joe Biden, would you say that his policies when it came to the border is also a failure?
Well, I think that he could have done better on the border, for sure.
Okay, so you would say that you could have done better, but you would consider it
But
success?
there were like 50 million other things that he was handling in the country at that point in time.
Yeah,
I would
but
say that
I'm strictly just talking about the border.
He could do better. Donald Trump
is
is
it
not
a failure or is it not?
No, I'm not going to say it's failed at the
border. So
border.
then at that point, we can't really agree, especially when it comes to Biden, especially allowing 5 million people into the border. And if you look at other administrations, it was nowhere near those numbers, bro. It was nowhere near those numbers. Not from Barack Obama, not from the previous administration of Donald Trump.
Okay. This is an issue that we don't care about. We just don't care about. You don't care about it. No, like nobody in the Republicans care about it. It's a talking point you put up. Just like how in the 4 years before Donald Trump, or the 4 years after Donald Trump and Biden, it was always like, there's the new caravan that's coming to the border. Here's the new group of illegals that are coming to the border.
Caravans coming to the border.
Yeah, where are all the caravans? What happened?
Oh, you didn't watch the news of the caravans going to the southern border?
Yeah, where did they go? What happened to them?
It's crazy to me how Destiny just wants to ignore it. Where did they go? There's no caravans. I'm just going to ignore them and pretend that they don't exist.
It's crazy that all of these illegals were supposed to come in. They were supposed to be overwhelming all the welfare centers and everything else, but they started raiding Home Depots to kick them out of their jobs. It's crazy that they were supposed to destroy the United States, but somehow they go to places like California that is the most prosperous economy in the entire United States. You know, like, yeah, I'm just saying, it's crazy to me. Here's a question. If illegal immigrants are so destructive in the United States, why wouldn't Donald Trump just sit and watch California fall apart? Why is he sending ICE to go do galloping horse things through McArthur Park? I'm just saying, it's kind of crazy.
Calm down. Here's the thing.
You only have a couple minutes, Jake.
Here's the thing when it comes to Democrats, dude, especially when it comes to the raids, one thing with politicians, they're focusing more on the mask of ICE rather than the actual issues here, right? They're saying, well, ICE is wearing masks, while simultaneously ignoring that all of the rioters, especially from BLM, from the LA riots, were also wearing masks too. Why were they doing that, Destiny? Right? But yet Democrats want to shoot out to those types of issues that don't actually matter.
Listen, I'm just glad the Republicans moved on from thinking that wearing masks meant you were a Nazi or whatever, because apparently that was the stance during COVID, I guess.
Okay. Well, at the same time, like I'm saying, I think Democrats always want to pivot to something that's not even there in the first place, right?
What do
Wearing
you mean?
masks, ICE wears masks. Donald Trump bad. This is stuff that's
Donald
rhetoric
Trump
that's
is
always
bad. I think the issue
well,
that people
Donald
have
Trump's
with
Hitler,
people
right?
wearing
Destiny.
I don't think he's Hitler. Hitler was way smarter than Trump.
well,
Okay.
well, they said it was
Donald Trump is Hitler. We made a real
8
problem right
years
now, okay?
of that, right?
I'm just saying. I think that the issue related to
Calm
ICE
down,
wearing
guys.
masks.
It wasn't that funny.
The issue. I think
It
that-
wasn't that funny. Calm down.
I think the scary thing with ICE wearing masks is that when you have videos of people jumping out of vans and trying to black bag people, and then you've got your Rodrigo Garcia stories, you've got all these other weird stories, you've got Trump supporters whose wives are being shipped off to other countries, and the lack of due process and all of the challenges. I
This
know
guy's
it's funny
really
to you
drinking the
because
Kool-Aid
things
here,
actually matter or whatever,
as well
but
as
like
your
yeah.
audience. All right, we're good on this?
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Destiny, so much for the exchange. By the way, I'm Jake Varr. You can find me on YouTube, Project VO Pod on YouTube, man. I really appreciate it. Destiny, of course. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks, Jake. Okay, give him a round of applause. Oh, thanks. And also on the fentanyl issue, it's less than 1% of the fentanyl seizures coming over the border into the U.S. is coming from Canada, okay? That's my serious comment on the issue.
All right, Destiny. So real quick, I just want to say that I have a proposition I want to debate you on. I'm a little bit worried that you're not going to think the proposition is pro-Trump. I think it is pro-Trump, and I can get into my reasoning for that, but I respect your time, and I don't want to. Okay. So basically, the claim is that, I disagree with, I think, a rhetorical point you were making in the first anti-Trump tour, ironically with Jake Varr. So Jake Varr claimed that he thinks the Democratic Party is a cult. You responded by asking him a question. You asked him a question. You said, okay, who is our cult leader? And then he responded by saying, I don't know. And then you responded by asking him a question. And the question was, well, isn't that kind of important? So I took that to be a rhetorical question. Okay, I took it to be that your point there was that it's important to know the cult leader if you're going to claim a group as a cult. And I disagree with that proposition. So I would take the negation of that proposition. So it's not the case that it's important that you need to know the cult leader if you're going to make a claim about the group being a cult.
I mean, like, strictly speaking, I would probably agree. I feel like I think you can probably have cults that are around ideas and stuff, although I don't know of any off the top of my head that exist that way. Can you, what are some big cults, I guess, that are generally, like, leaderless?
So I do not know any cults that are leaderless, but
Okay.
I would argue I don't need to know an actual real-life cult. I can make an argument that doesn't involve a real-life cult. So just to be clear, were you making that rhetorical point, do you think? I mean, I know you don't have the perfect memory, but...
When you say was I making the rhetorical point, do you mean was I just looking for like kind of a snappy response that I wasn't like, that is not something that I would logically defend to its extreme, or?
It could be that, or do you seriously think that you need to know the cult leader of a group if you're claiming the group is a cult?
Are you using, do you need to know the cult leader as a substitution for, does there need to be a cult leader, or?
If you're going to make a claim, if you're going to say group A is a cult, is it important to know whether that, for you personally, to know whether that group, what the cult leader of that group is?
I'm just making sure I understand. Like, are you saying like there's a possibility, or that this has nothing to do with the existence of a cult leader, but it has to do with whether or not every single member knows there's a cult leader?
No, whether or not the truth status of the claim, like this group A is a cult,
Yes.
whether the person who's making that claim, if it's reasonable for them to make that claim when they don't know who the cult leader is.
I feel like you should know that. I guess it's not inconceivable that you could figure out that there is a cult without knowing the leader, maybe, but that seems highly unlikely.
Okay, so that's where we would disagree, because I think that there's a property of the common usage term of cult that part of that meaning isn't actually going to. There's not going to be a property where like the cult requires a cult leader. So for example, like if we were to have just a hypothetical, if we have a building where there's dead bodies and people worshiping Satan and you have to step over the dead bodies and stuff, I think most people would consider that a cult, even if there's not a leadership structure.
How would the cult issue new orders to cult members? What would that look like?
Well, that would be a loaded question if there's not a cult leader, but it could be just that they all like read a book or something, and the book, and they worship
Yeah, but
it.
who would
and it's
decide
just,
what the book is?
what's that?
Well, first question would be who would decide what the book is, and then the second question would be would I not just say that the author of that book is then the cult leader?
Well, the book, well, it could have been maybe a former leader that passed away or something like that, or maybe just the group. So human beings are emotional. I mean, we can just enjoy writing or something, and as a group, and then like have this emotional, weird view, bizarre, like strange view or whatever, and then.
What do you think? I guess what is the definition of cult you're kind of working with?
So I actually don't have a fully fleshed out definition of cult. I don't even think that matters because I'm not talking about what the definition of I'm not making any claims about what the definition of a cult means, like in general. I'm making a specific claim that it's not the case that the definition contains this property where there must be a cult leader.
Sure, I guess, but however you define cult, I imagine there's going to be some part of this that I'm going to say it's probably necessary to have a cult leader in order to have that cult work.
Oh, okay.
Like my understanding is that cults in general, like most people agree that there is some kind of like ideological conformity that's enforced on the group. There's usually because it changes sometimes to adapt to modern circumstances. You need some kind of system by which to enforce that change, and usually that comes from some kind of leader or leadership structure. That like if you had a group of people whose beliefs kind of changed based on external evidence and everything, then definitionally it wouldn't be a cult. It would just be a group of people that think a certain thing.
Even if the group of people, I guess it's kind of, I'm not gonna be honest, it's kind of hard to track what you're saying, but even if the group of people are like torturing babies and like worshiping Satan.
Why would that? Is the definition of a cult just people that do bad things?
Well, it could be people with like extreme beliefs, like people that.
Is that a cult? If people with extreme beliefs?
Well, it would be. I mean, I don't have a fully fleshed out view, but it would be something similarly to that. I think a lot of people would consider a building where babies are being tortured and people are worshiping Satan to be a cult.
Yeah, but what's the cult part of that?
The cult part of that, I mean, I don't know exactly. I don't know exactly why people would. I don't know exactly why they would say it's a cult, but I would imagine it has something to do with the dead bodies and the extreme beliefs that they have.
I feel like definitionally, I think when people talk about cults, they talk about like a leadership that can issue orders or can be like a source of epistemic truth for a group of people that is resistant to external or outside information that would help those people update their beliefs. So definitionally, that's why I think most people would say that cults require like leaders.
I just think that most people would want a definition of cult that would capture a building full of dead bodies and blood and all that stuff, even if there's not a leadership structure to be a cult. Like most people would want. They
would probably, but what you're talking about is behavior that would be so aberrant from the norm that it seems like there must have been somebody that was probably telling them, right? Like can you conceive of a situation where a bunch of people would come together to go to a building to worship or walk over dead bodies that doesn't get all of this information from a singular leader or a group of leaders?
No, that's a fair point. Like it's hard for me to. I would respond by just saying humans are emotional. We're animals. A lot of
people but emotional is not random, right? If a bunch of people started to do a particular thing that all seemed like highly like off the norm, why are they all getting where are they getting that information to go do that thing? Generally, it comes from an individual, like a leader, right?
Yeah, well, one thing I will point out that even if it's hard to conceive or whatever, I mean, the hypothetical still remains. Where like if a group were to hypothetically do that, the question is still on the table of whether or not that group is a cult. So even if it's hard for me to like imagine that situation or explain it, it's hard for me to imagine how like human body processes food or whatever. But I still know it happens or.
I mean, it would be like if I was 1,000 feet in the air, and then you're asking like if I'm able to fly, and I say yes because I'm 1,000 feet in the air, and then you ask me how did I get there, and I say I don't know how I got there, and it's hard to think of how I got there. But if I was 1,000 feet in the air, then of my own power, then I'm flying. But like if you don't have the mechanism to get there, that seems kind of strange. Like definitionally, cults are cults because there's usually a group of people that are all doing things that society at large would think is kind of weird. And if society at large thinks the thing is weird, then generally people don't do it. So to get a group of people to do the thing that society doesn't really like usually requires them to all be sourcing some belief or something from a different piece of information or some kind of like different source of truth. And that is usually the cult leader. Like Scientology has a cult leader. ISIS had a leader. Most religious extremist groups have religious leaders. I would say for MAGA, like Donald Trump is the leader. These leadership figures are really important because without a leadership figure, then a bunch of people in a group of people would look around for other sources of truth information, and then they would leave the cult, the group, right?
Yeah. Okay. Okay, maybe we can move on to the next. Okay, so sweet. So, all right. Do you think January 6th weakened democracy?
Yeah, for sure, of course, yeah.
Okay, so I think at least it's a wash, which means that I think it's not the case that it weakened democracy, and it's not the case it strengthened democracy. At the very least, it's a wash, because there's a lot of outcomes of January 6th that I believe strengthen democracy. That, at least the outcomes I'm aware of, there's outcomes that weaken it, there's outcomes that strengthen democracy, and there's a lot of outcomes that strengthen it.
Sure. So, I mean, I would say that, so we're a democracy in the United States, and I think right now anywhere from 70 to 80% of Republicans don't believe in the outcome of the 2020 election. I can't think of, well, there are things that are worse for democracy than that, but I would say that that's probably one of the worst possible beliefs that could be pervasive among a population.
Yeah. So I can sort of follow the reasoning there, but just inherently, because a lot of people don't trust the election results, that inherently isn't going to convince me of anything.
Well, so people, that's not true that inherently people didn't believe it. That was an explicit thing that was pushed by Trump and MAGA for a year leading up to January 6th. It was an intentional concoction from them in order to get people to do the demonstrations at January 6th.
Okay, well, just to be clear, I agree with you that there's a lot of Americans that don't believe or don't trust the election results. That's not where I'm fighting you. Well, I'm not even really fighting you on that point. I could see how that could be an outcome that weakens democracy, but I'm just saying that in the definition of democracy, you're not going to find there has to be a certain percentage of Americans.
People that trust the outcome of the elections?
Absolutely not, because you could, in theory, right, if you're defining democracy as, fair and free elections, people don't get, people don't get murdered for their free speech or whatever. If you have all these pillars that you're defining democracy, I don't think there's all of those things can be true. The propositions in the debate or in the definition can be true, and also barely anyone trusts the election. I think that's hypothetically.
No, I don't think that's possible.
Wait,
I think if you had a monarchy where they didn't believe in last names, I think that monarchy would fall apart pretty fast. If you had a democracy where people didn't believe in the electoral outcomes, I think that democracy would fall apart pretty fast.
No. So it could fall apart. So let's say if people don't trust the election, you could argue that they're going to riot or they're going to destroy the poll booths or whatever. But just inherently, if they're not destroying the poll booths and the poll booths are there and we still have fair, free elections, we still have free speech and everything. Just because people think that the results are bad, it doesn't follow that the results were actually that you can't vote in a fair and free election. It doesn't follow that.
I'm not sure if I would grant this, but we can move to the next point, I guess.
You got one more
Right,
minute there,
yeah.
Okay.
Nathaniel.
I just think there's a lot of outcomes that strengthen that.
Give me your top one or two outcomes, I think.
Well, so Trump got impeached for January 6th. I think that might set an example for other people to not repeat January 6th. And then he also got charged with 4 crimes related to that. So that's
but didn't he didn't get convicted in the Senate, and didn't he get elected again? Didn't he isn't that the ultimate vindication of his claim that he won the election after being impeached?
Okay, but Destiny, so that's another thing. You could argue that weakens democracy, but let's just say he never got charged with a crime. Okay, compared to him being charged with a crime. Being charged with a crime inherently is counting towards my point that democracy was strengthened.
No, I don't think that's very true at all.
Okay, so if you could, if Trump would never get charged with a crime, even if he didn't get punished for it, that would be worse than him never getting charged.
Well, it would be better if he didn't do the thing at all, right?
Oh, no, yeah, but that's a different claim, though. I'm just saying.
Well, yeah, but him doing the thing at all puts us here. Him getting impeached for it might put us here, but we're not even close to where we were prior to him doing the thing.
If you mean close, I'm just talking about the strength.
As in, if you had a community and a person gets murdered, and then that person who did the murder gets arrested, and then jailed, and then convicted, and then sentenced or whatever, you could say there was some justice served in that society. But to say that isn't it didn't we serve more justice in that society than in one where no murder had happened at all? It's that's a very strange claim. I don't think I would agree with that. No, I think I'd rather the society where no murder happened at all than a society where murder was maybe kind of sort of held accountable.
Well, I'm not saying it's good that it happened. I'm actually just making a descriptive claim about the strength or weakness of democracy.
Yeah, but how could you say that democracy is strengthened because a person was impeached for launching a historic attack against our system?
Well, because the reasoning would be that it set an example. So if you if you were to beat someone up and you don't get impeached or charged with crime, that would be an example.
Yeah, but
too.
I think the assumption prior to Donald Trump doing it was that you shouldn't be able to do stuff like that at all.
No, I agree with that.
But then he did do it, right?
Yeah.
And then he got impeached, and then he won the next election. So it seems like I don't know if there's a strong example set there at all.
All right, final thought there, Nathaniel.
Okay, well, I'm good. I appreciate it.
Okay.
All right, I appreciate it, Dustin.
All right, give it up for Nathaniel, everyone.
So I'm Bacchus. That's my fake, or my pen name. I'm a freelance writer, I guess, journalist, and I'm here to debate Destiny on stuff. I have essays to hand out if anyone wants them afterwards. I don't know if I'm allowed to do that.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. I guess. Yeah.
All right. So I'll start off. Wait. So do I start or do you start?
What? I mean, you got the claim. Yeah.
Well, first of all, I didn't vote for Trump. I support a matriarchy, so I only vote for women. But I would like.
Wait. Did you vote for Kamala?
I didn't vote. I'm going to vote for
Oh,
AOC
my
next.
God.
I'm going to vote for AOC next. I'm voting for AOC. AOC. I'm voting for AOC. And I would like to mostly argue against your reasons for opposing Trump. I guess I don't think you oppose him for good reasons, or I don't think you even really know why you oppose him, honestly. I think that you just dislike him for being Trump.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you want me to give reasons why I don't like him?
Sure.
Sure. If you want. I mean, the last time I brought up January 6th, that was a pretty big one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, in terms of, like, when we look at our legal system and, like, why, like, if I were to, like, look at the insurrection thing, and I do think it was an insurrection, but the reason why we have, democratic process, the end is always the law. The law should be, the end point. So I would argue that all the things that Trump is doing to violate civil liberties, that started with Bush, it was continued by Obama, and it was continued by Trump. It will likely be continued by the next women who are in power. So I don't think that this is unique to Trump. I don't think that it's,
So I can't think of anybody that tried to circumvent the Electoral Count Act in the way that Donald Trump did with January 6th to try to get Pence to vote for him in the Congress to be president.
Okay, but why would that matter if we are living under a system where our civil liberties are routinely violated, like they're with like the NSA, CIA, you look at the Snowden leaks and all that shit, right? Why would it matter if he overthrows the government and implements a new one that's exactly like the old one, right?
Have you ever had a teacher be mean to you before?
No, teachers love me.
Do you ever think that a teacher being mean to a kid means it would be the same thing if he had a mean teacher versus if he had a teacher that was like a serial killer and like randomly executed students? Like just because there might be issues in the current system doesn't mean that we can like make this kind of like false equation and to say that, why?
Why?
Well, because two different things aren't the same. There can be different levels of badness to where there can be some level of badness and some guy does a thing that's way more bad than the other things.
So what about Russia and Ukraine? Can you tell me one thing that you dislike about Russia that's not also true about Ukraine?
I can't do that, but can you admit to me that January 6th was a historically bad event in the United States with no legal or historical precedence whatsoever,
Yeah,
except for
sure.
maybe the Civil War? Okay.
Yeah, I don't care about January 6th.
Well,
like I said,
do, but you said I didn't have a good reason for not liking Trump, so that was one thing.
Okay,
So thank you.
so
Okay.
when it comes to
Yeah.
Russia, Ukraine then, why I can tell you a list of reasons why I dislike Russia.
Okay.
Every single one of those things is also true about Ukraine.
Okay, so we'll show.
yeah,
I mean, we can do.
fuck
Sure,
Ukraine.
well, we can do one thing. So, in 1991, Ukraine had borders that were recognized by the rest of the world, including Russia. And
I don't care.
That's
So,
fine. But in 2014, Russia invaded
though.
Ukraine.
Listen though. Okay, so
I will say that it's. I don't know how old you are, but you've stumbled upon this is the conservative debate strategy of I don't know
I'm
about
not
it
a
and I don't care
conservative.
about it.
I just
and
said
it
I
didn't
was.
happen.
I said I was
Yeah, I know.
supporting a matriarchy. I'm
And
not
you
a
didn't vote for
conservative.
either of the women. You could have at least said Jill Stein when I asked you to vote for Kamala.
I wasn't old enough to vote. I'm gonna vote
Oh.
for. I'm gonna vote for. I'm voting for AOC next.
Okay.
I swear, I'm voting.
Wait,
for
how
AOC.
old are you?
I think I'm 21. But
You
last,
think?
No, I'm
Okay,
21.
I don't want to shit on Texas. I thought you guys
I'm
had birth
21.
certificates at least 25 years ago. Okay. Oh, all right. Okay.
All right.
Sorry. All right. Okay. So January 6th, we're good on. Russia invaded Ukraine. I think that's bad.
Okay, again, why would that be bad though? Ukraine isn't any different than Russia. If they invaded
Even if it's not about them being different. If they were the exact same country and one
Why?
invaded the other, then
Why?
Because we're not supposed to invade a country. That's
Why?
what borders are for. Because if you have countries invading other countries, then it means that other countries will invade other countries and the entire world will descend into chaos.
But I mean, again, if you look at their legal system, very similar.
I don't care.
So if we got
Why does that matter? Why is that relevant?
Because why wouldn't they just let them take over? If they are going to be ruled by the same person or by someone who governs in the exact same way, why would it matter
Because
if they let them take over?
Because it's not their country.
Who cares?
I would care.
I don't
If my next door neighbors had the same rules for their household as me, that doesn't mean they can move into my garage and start taking over just because we
Okay.
roll our houses the same way.
All right, Destiny. Well, like I said, I'm not a conservative. I vote. I'm going to try to implement a matriarchy soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
What form of government is your matriarch gonna?
That's up to them.
Okay.
Isn't the future female Destiny? So anyways, yeah. You know, I don't think that Destiny knows why he dislikes Trump. I don't think that most people that dislike Trump know why they dislike Trump. He acts just okay. So he supports his. All right, I'll talk to him. I'm sorry, Destiny. So you agree with him on Israel, right?
I don't think he has a coherent position on any foreign event. So
I don't think you do either. What is one position that you have remained consistent on throughout your entire debate career, Destiny? Can you tell me one position that you've had the entire time?
I don't
You're
think
constantly changing your mind and you expect everyone else to just go along with you. That's not a way a principled thinker thinks.
Does consistency mean that you have the same beliefs from birth
Yeah.
to death?
Well, I mean, I can think of like people like Glenn Greenwald who've been remarkably consistent throughout their entire career.
First of all, yeah, Glenn
I will suck Glenn Greenwald's dick right now. I
Greenwald
love
is
him.
anything
I
but
love him.
consistent.
I love
Greenwald's
him.
anything but consistent. Besides, but it's not about do I have like my beliefs. I'm 36. My beliefs are much different than when I was 20. Obviously, they're going to be different than when I've
Okay, so
changed
I
on some
think that
things.
what you do is I think you just go with your gut and expect everyone else to go along with you, just like Donald Trump.
Okay, you can say that.
I don't think that you're any different from him.
You
on
can
a
say that, but if you go, we can
Okay.
talk about any issue you want. I'll justify with more than just my gut.
Okay, so again, back to Russia, Ukraine.
Yeah.
I gave you a list of things. I actually didn't yet. So what I don't like about Russia is I don't like that they have conscription. I don't want to be cannon fodder. I don't like that they have a pretty like organized crime-esque government, right? Like it's very much. Yeah, no, I don't like Russia, but I don't like Ukraine for the same reasons.
Don't argue with her. That's a queen. Remember.
I will. I'm sorry, Queen. Anyways, all right. Have fun in hell, all of you. I'm just gonna say that. Destiny, hey, do you ever wonder what's gonna happen to you when you die?
No, I don't think about it too much.
Do you think it'll be anything like that mushroom trip you had that one time?
Who knows? I guess we'll find out eventually.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe sooner rather than later, depending on how this.
Yeah. I mean, they did a while ago.
All right.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Anything you want to finish on there?
Yeah, no, I think I'm good. Oh,
What
actually, you know
are your essays about?
This one's called If Sam Harris Were a Cartoon, He'd Be South Park.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you originally write these with Crayola crayon, or did you type them up first?
No, I typed them out, friend.
Okay. All right.
I
All right.
used to rule the world. Seas would rise when I gave the word. Now in the morning I sleep alone. Sweep the streets I used to own. I used to roll
Okay,
the dice.
so it's not easy getting up here and doing this, you guys, so let's give a big round of applause.
All right. I'm going to be talking about Trump's trade policies towards China
Okay.
and manufacturing, reshoring, all those kind of good things. I'm probably going to monologue a little bit, so just cut me off whenever you want to.
Okay.
So I'm in favor of like Trump's, in general, tariffs, reshoring of manufacturing, things like this. I have three main arguments. First one, while I acknowledge that a global free market economy is best for everyone, doesn't work if people are engaged in unfair trading practices, which China does. They do a thing called tech transfer.
Well, here, actually, can we walk through? So on the very first thing you said,
Yeah.
when you said you're in favor of the tariffs, can I ask, what is the goal of the tariffs?
So again, you have reshoring of not all manufacturing. I don't want to be an autarky, whatever it's called. I just wanted strategic manufacturing of crucial goods, rare earth elements, pharmaceuticals, and semiconductors that are really important for, like, especially defense. So, China's a big adversary of ours, and so if we ever get into a trade war or a hot war, these are things that we want onshore for security reasons.
Can you tell me, how do tariffs make it so that we onshore specific industries?
So, I can get to that. So, reshoring of strategic goods. So, I'll talk about what Trump has done policy-wise in these areas. So, for pharmaceuticals, regulatory streamlining in May 2025, President Trump signed an executive order directing federal agencies, particularly the FDA, to eliminate regulatory hurdles, accelerate permitting, and prioritize domestic pharmaceutical manufacturing. This includes removing duplicate requirements for building new manufacturing sites in the U.S., maximizing timeliness and predictability of FDA reviews for drug manufacturing facilities, expanding programs for offering technical guidance to domestic manufacturers before facilities are operational, clarifying guidance for moving production from foreign to domestic sites.
So all of those things sound good. None of those things sound like they have anything to do with tariffs, though.
Right, so I started off by saying trade policies. So initially when Travis emailed me asking the topic, I said tariffs. As I was doing research, I kind of realized I should broaden it to more than just tariffs.
Yeah, that's fine.
Tariffs is
But
one of the things.
I understand it, but there's this thing that happens where people talk about tariffs, and then they want to talk about how good the trade policy is related to tariffs, and then when they talk about good things, none of the things they talk about have anything to do with the tariffs. So like this weird thing, it feels like there's a guy that comes in and he gives you like a very small cyanide pill, and then as part of the cyanide pill training program, he puts you on like a really good calorie restricted diet with high protein. He gives you like a workout regimen. He helps you with cardio and swimming. And then the question is like, okay, why do we have to do this cyanide pill thing? And then it's like, well, let's look at what he says in terms of exercise. It's like, okay, sure, but what about like the cyanide pill thing? It's like, okay, yeah, but also like the diet plan is really good. It's like, but why about the cyanide pill? So like if you want to talk about like getting rid of unnecessary hurdles or duplicate requirements or whatever in the FDA, like that's all fine. But the tariffs just seem bad. Like I can't think of a defense for the tariffs.
So the point of the tariffs specifically, and the reason I'd say specifically China is, and it's not against the Chinese people, it's against their communist government, okay? You and I both hate communism. Communism is an inherently evil way of ruling a society. And so what I'm trying to say
What's one of the biggest inherent evils in communism?
Well, whenever a country becomes communistic, they tend to kill millions of their own people. For starters, human rights abuses, no free speech, no freedom of religion, no Second Amendment, these kind of things.
Okay, I would say that one of the biggest tenets that I don't like of authoritarian regimes is the idea that one leader decides the policy and then everybody kind of has to follow in line behind that. And I feel like the tariffs are kind of authoritarian in the way that they're being doled out. The president isn't supposed to be able to do hardcore economic policy on his own, especially international trade. And I feel like Trump has kind of abused the national emergency situation to make himself the individual person that gets to set massive tariff rates on every other country around the world.
So you're challenging his legal right to induce tariffs?
I mean, I would say the legal right is there, but also like the ideological or conceptual right as well. Like as a democracy, when it comes to trade and the economy, like we don't elect one guy to figure all this out. Like these things are generally trade agreements that are set by Congress. The president and his ambassadors or envoys or, his secretaries might be in charge of negotiating aspects of this, but the idea that it's just the president doing these massive trade deals, I don't like to call it that because I don't think we actually have any yet. I just think it's not good. And then, yeah, I think there are other things that we can defend in terms of incentivizing local manufacturing and everything, but I don't know what the massive, insane tariff regime has to do with that.
Well, with China, I think it's 10% blanket on everything. There's a 20% fentanyl tariff, which I think is good because fentanyl
Damn, now
is
people are
largely...
dying of fentanyl and they're going broke buying it too? That's...
What?
It seems like a lot. That's right. No, never mind. Sorry.
I didn't hear what you said.
My bad.
So on pharmaceuticals, so the response, didn't go over everything, but you understand he's done some things to streamline the process. The industry response, the threat of tariffs and promised streamlined regulation has led several pharmaceutical companies such as Eli Lilly, Johnson & Johnson, and AbbVie to announce or consider new investments in U.S. manufacturing facilities, although challenges remain regarding the high costs and long timelines for building such plants. So Trump's sweeping tariffs and executive orders have prompted pharmaceutical companies, including AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson, and Eli Lilly, to announce plans for more than $250 billion in new or expanding U.S. manufacturing facilities. AstraZeneca, so other companies have pledged many billions of dollars as well. Would you say this is a good thing that has occurred? Like, would you agree that decoupling from China in terms of us relying on them for pharmaceuticals is a good goal to have?
It could be, yeah.
Okay, so I would say that I said what he did, I didn't get all of it, but I said he did things. We've had good results, so would you agree that's a good thing?
Not necessarily.
Why?
Because I think that he's going about it the worst way possible, and I feel like there's like a million better ways he could approach this. I don't know if I would necessarily trust the person to do this. Like if you had a group of friends and nobody had a driver's license, but one guy did have a driver's license, but he was also wasted, and that's like your ride home. It's not good, even though like directionally we kind of want to get home at the end of the night. I think that Donald Trump is a little bit like a drunk driver when it comes to doing trade policy with the rest of the world.
Destiny, I feel like I'm talking about specific trade like policies, and you're trying to make like these meme like analogies. I'm not sure that's exactly good faith, to be honest.
So the issue is that, so for instance, if you wanted to onshore more of our pharmaceutical stuff, one thing that you would do is you would stop attacking all of the general scientific research that's happening in the United States. So hundreds of millions of dollars or billions of dollars at this point have been pulled from domestic research into all of our universities and institutions when it comes to some of that general scientific research. So I would say that's one thing that hurts domestic pharmaceutical stuff in the United States. The second thing that hurts is when you're tariffing countries instead of tariffing industries, you're not actually protecting any of your local industries. You're just setting arbitrary trade policies against other countries. So let's say, for instance, we do 100% tariff on China and we have a 1% tariff or whatever on, Germany. Well, Germany pharmaceutical sector can just outcompete our our domestic pharmaceutical sector. Like you're not actually helping your industry at that point. Usually protectionist trade policies are targeting certain industries, but Donald Trump doesn't know what a trade policy or what protectionist is. He probably thinks that's when you wear a condom when you go to fuck a porn star, I guess, is protectionism, if I had to guess, right?
Okay.
There are comprehensive ways. So for instance, when Joe Biden wanted to incentivize more manufacturing in the United States related to microprocessors, he had the CHIPS Act. The CHIPS Act was $500 billion. There was a specific doled out, huge, massive investment in domestic infrastructure to produce microprocessors, and that was wildly successful. It was so successful, in fact, that Donald Trump is trying to take credit for a lot of those industries that are being built now in the United States because of his tariffing thing.
CHIPS Act. So CHIPS Act, something, some people, I don't know if you're saying that he like undid the CHIPS Act or tried to fight against it.
No, I think he likes it. He tries to take credit for some of the things that started under the CHIPS Act.
Yeah, so I would say the CHIPS Act, the goal of the CHIPS Act under Biden was a good thing in terms of reshoring semiconductor fabrication plants to America.
Well, not just the goal, but like the actual, it was good implementation too. Because the issue with Donald Trump's tariffs, so first of all, these are massive capital investment things. Every industry that he wants to protect, nobody is going to do a massive capital investment in infrastructure in the United States off the back of a tariff that can be changed by the next president. This is why legislation is important. The first guy that I debated about immigration policy, this is why it's important to pass legislation instead of trying to rule by executive fiat, because whatever a president can do by executive order, the next one can rescind by executive order. So this whole tariff regime could disappear in 3 years. Imagine if you're one of the people that invested $1 trillion in onshoring some kind of domestic manufacturing, and now it's all for nothing.
Right, so tariffs are one thing, but I'm talking about other policies other than just tariffing. I acknowledge that what you're saying is true in that this volatility,
Not to be silly, but I know what you're saying. So you're saying I want to focus on the diet and the exercise and not the cyanide pill. But the cyanide pill was like the really outstanding, huge thing that Donald Trump sold us all on to manage the entire trade policy.
I'm talking about specifically tariffs on China, okay? So,
sure.
And you're saying broad tariffs are bad, but I'm saying broad tariffs on China are good.
Yeah, but even
China is an inherently aggressive and immoral economic player in the global field.
Okay.
They engage in intellectual property theft.
Agreed.
They don't care about patents. I gotta find my notes. They don't care about patents. They exploit.
You don't have to. I agree with you. China does a lot of bad things. Yeah.
Okay, so if you agree that China is just kind of this inherently evil communist regime, then tariffs, broad tariffs, work to decouple economically from China, that's a good thing.
Yeah, but there's a good way to approach it, right? like, if you really wanted to tackle China, then the goal would be to shore up the alliances that you have with the rest of your trading partners and to build something stronger that can outcompete China in what they're doing. It wouldn't be to make an enemy of every single other country in the rest of the world, which is what Donald Trump has basically done with his tariff regime.
I wouldn't agree that he's made an enemy of the entire world.
The rest of the world would disagree, I think.
He's made deals.
We have no deals yet.
Didn't he make like a? Okay, I could be wrong. I thought he made a significant deal with the European Union.
Yeah,
recently.
we're still like in talks. There's always like the framework and the skeleton of a deal, but nothing is like we have nothing to look at yet. It's like agreeing to
I haven't researched deals with other countries. I kind of focus on China, so I can't really speak to that.
Okay, but like we can't like China has like 3 times their population, right? Don't we kind of have to worry about other countries as well if we want to actually defeat China in any meaningful way and some?
Yeah, but alliances are good. I'm pro-alliances, so I acknowledge that Trump has strained our relationship with certain alliances.
With all of them.
I also
well,
think,
except for maybe not Israel.
Well, I also think that I mean, I don't want to get too off topic.
Sure.
But asking other countries in NATO to provide a comparative amount of their GDP to defense as we do, I think makes sense. That may strain relationships in the short term, but I think that's fair in the long term.
That might be, but I don't necessarily disagree with that, but it's the fact that every single thing has been bad with other countries, whether we're joking about, like, it's crazy that we already have forgotten that the President of the United States seemed to be seriously considering redrawing our borders with Canada, or talked about invading Panama or Greenland, or tore up our trade agreement that he himself had negotiated with Mexico and Canada, or sent the Vice President of the United States to Europe to make an enemy out of the entire European Union.
He didn't tear up the trade deal with Canada and Mexico. With Mexico, in terms of tariffs, the goods that were on the trade deal with Mexico, he acknowledged and kept those tariff-free. But other things he tariffed. So he didn't just tear it up.
That's
he
like
did
a cute,
acknowledge it.
I understand that's a cute thing to say, but the reality is, well, it's cute in that, like, do you think that Mexico feels like the United States has been a respectable trading partner after they'd renegotiated a new trade agreement 5 years ago, and now the United States is coming through unilaterally and slapping huge tariffs on the other parts of the market?
Well, like I said, the goods that we agreed upon that were not going to be taxed are not taxed. And actually, I read that Mexico's actually benefiting from this because while we were tariffing other countries, but respecting the deal that we made with Mexico, Mexico's actually benefiting disproportionately from our tariffs in other countries. So
that's possible through these like secondary trades or whatever, but I'm just saying that we had a trade agreement with Canada and Mexico. We had a process by which we could go back to that agreement and renegotiate things. Donald Trump hasn't done all of that, whether that's because of incompetence or senility or some combination of both. Like if we wanted to deal with China, I don't even necessarily disagree that China is like the adversary that we have, maybe not even militarily, but at least economically and technologically going into the future. But I feel like Donald Trump has done everything possible to weaken our position in that upcoming battle.
Well, I disagree, and I have good reasons to say so.
Okay, give me the next top reason. Yeah.
The hot reason. So they engage in currency manipulation, but you probably agree with that. They engage in unfair government subsidies for specific strategic industries. We went over pharmaceuticals, rare earth elements. So Donald Trump has directed federal agencies to prioritize and rapidly compile lists of pending mineral production projects with deadlines as short as 10 to 15 days for project nominations and permitting fast tracking. Empower the National Energy Dominance Council, headed by the Secretary of the Interior, to lead supply chain development and designate new critical minerals for support.
But in terms of like rare earth resources, do you think that we would have a better chance identifying every single repository of these in the United States? Or do you think if we had a good relationship with our trading partners across the rest of the world that we could just continue to buy from them?
I mean, we can do both. I'm not saying we have to manufacture everything ourselves. We can, as long as we're not relying on China, who's like our main enemy. That's what I'm trying to do. So either us is good, allies is good, either or. But I'm saying that Trump...
One more minute there, Mira.
Okay. Trump, these actions have several new processing, recycling, and magnetic manufacturing facilities that are under construction in Texas. So there's plants being built. We have the
all of that. It sounds good,
elements.
but this is a diet and exercise, and I'm wondering still
I don't know.
about the cyanide pill.
I don't know what this cyanide pill you keep bringing up.
The tariffs you get every other country on the planet. The tariffs on every single country on the planet. It was Liberation Day when he held up the chart and he told us how much he was tariffing the Penguin Island.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about.
For the record. Okay, I'm not equipped to debate the tariffs on all the countries. I'm sorry. I focused on
okay.
I
Neither is
focused on
Trump's
China.
administration.
Is that a problem? I focused on China.
It's not good. You have to have a holistic view of the rest of the world.
Look.
When I'm fighting Hassan, okay, online, The thing that I know that is the best for me is not when Hassan or it's not when I'm just fighting Hassan, it's when he's fighting every single other community as well, right? When Asmongold is fighting him, when XQC is fighting him, when OTK is fighting him. I know this because the more people that are against him, the more strained that his resources are. So if Hassan wanted to go to war with me, and his first step in that war was to attack every single other online creator, I would just sit back and laugh because I've already won at that point, right? You can basically post a clip right now on LSF of Hassan breathing, and Asmongold's community is going to jump on and call him a communist for it. Like, that's good for me. And right now, that's where we're moving in the United States, to where whatever battle we want to have with China in terms of having some back and forth with them, the rest of the world should be looking at the United States as like, okay, who do we want leading us into the future? Do we want China or the US? I want the US, so let's continue to build on that relationship. And now they're like, okay, well, the US fucking hates us. China's fucking China. I guess, I don't know, do we look to Germany to lead us again in the future? Or like,
Is it possible?
I mean, I don't know. Like, everybody's really fucking confused right now. It's not good. And the tariffs are a huge part of that. That's my issue.
Yeah, tariffs are volatile. I think there's an argument to be made that like crazy up and down tariffs in the beginning can be used as a negotiation tool by Trump to secure better trade deals. I don't think this is like an illogical statement.
It is illogical.
I don't think so.
Well, every other planet, other planets would disagree if there's intelligent life there. Every other country on Earth also seems to disagree. It hasn't worked so far. We don't have any trade deals yet, and all it's done is hurt our relationship with everybody else.
Okay.
If crazy, wacky, wild...
Destiny, give me a second. You're pulling me away. I prepared for a specific point, and you're like pulling me away from that point, and so I feel kind of like fish out of water right now. I understand you have problems with tariffs in other countries. I didn't research it, so I can't speak on that. I prepared a long thing about China. I think I'm out of time. I just wanted to say that, look, with the USSR, we made it, specifically under the Reagan administration, we made it our goal to bring an end to communism. And we achieved that, large part due to economic inhibition of the country. Tariffs on China get us to that end. So I'm saying what we did with the USSR, we can do with the CCP.
Sure. Think about Reagan. What was Reagan's like most famous moment when it came to standing up against the USSR?
Bring down the wall?
Well, yeah, which was the reunification of Germany, which is not the United States. It was taking an interest in our allies. It was going to another country. Like, the propaganda model that we had at that time was, look at how shitty life is in East Germany compared to life in West Germany, right? Nobody's jumping over the wall in West Germany to go and party in East Germany. It was always the other way around. And that was like that was what the West had to show for what we were doing, you know? And the idea that we went from, Gorbachev tear down this wall to, we're going to build a wall around us and block every other country and every other relationship in the world and do it on our own, right? Like in today, like Donald Trump's like, the way that we beat the rest of the world is to fucking lock down every single thing we do and just focus on the US. And in the Cold War, it was like, we care so much about the rest of the world, we're going to go and fucking coup every South African government in order to install our own loyalist leaders. Like, there's like a huge change in strategy. I'm not saying that we should do what the CIA did in the 50s, 60s, 70s or whatever. I'm just saying that obviously having strong relationships with everybody else around the world is like the most important thing you can have when it comes to doing battle with an adversary that can produce more children than your entire country can in 10 years, in 6 months.
Well, they've actually are experiencing population decline in an aging population, so that's not exactly true. China has a lot of issues, actually.
Final thoughts there, Mira.
China is grappling with extremely high levels of debt. They have actually a slowing down of their economy. They are having actually political instability. Xi Jinping has been missing from like the public sector for a little while now, which people suspect maybe China's trying to position to a different political leader, which can indicate political and economic instability. I still think that the CCP is a bad actor. We should decouple from them economically. I understand that you want to shore up our alliances with other countries. I agree with that.
Can I ask a question on this? So, you're pointing out that China does have these problems, which they do, right? They're having demographic issues now that every other country's had.
And they actually have high unemployment rate for the young people as well.
Sure, they have, So why is it that Donald Trump is so obsessed with copying China's model of being a manufacturing export economy if we agree that China has all of these issues that they're now starting to run into? Like, isn't it kind of weird that China, as they're growing, are trying to be more like the United States moving into the future, and the United States, for some reason, has become obsessed with trying to become more like China, which is like in an earlier phase of development?
You mean like becoming an autarky? Is that what you're saying?
Or like just like focusing on like manufacturing and like having like steel
Right, I'm arguing
mills
for manufacturing of specific sectors. I didn't say we should have manufacturing of everything. We should have a free market in the world with fair trading practices. But pharmaceuticals, rare earth elements, and semiconductors, those are important. We should try to have those here, or at least have our allies be making them for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, put it up for Mira Williams.
Are you actually him?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, what's up? From discount Pisco to upgraded Pisco. I'm just kidding.
All right.
Bye.
You've made it.
Not
No,
taking
no.
your abuse anymore.
Okay.
1 sec. Sorry. 1 second. I got to get the link real quick for chat. Everybody, we have a new edition of the Pragmatic Papers out. Oh, yes, we do. Yeah. And so, all right, put it in the chat. There you go. There's been a lot of drama. I haven't been able to get on a stream, so I decided to just come to the event and do it live.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. A lot of really good stuff in there. Everybody should check it out. We've got a really great article about how Trump did really, really well with the EU and got that amazing trade deal for us. And then we've got, let's see, a really good one about the famine in Gaza. And I was asked by the other members of the Pragmatic Papers to push you on that to see your position on Israel and Gaza with the famine and stuff.
Generally, I think famines are bad. I don't know my opinion's changed on that, but yeah.
Imagine you aren't being paid by the Mossad.
Okay.
And maybe give me a little bit more of a direct Israel.
Oh, the more direct
statement.
is, since there's a famine, now my opinion on the entire history of the conflict is completely 180. Now I'm actually a big supporter of the Hamas perspective.
Oh, this rocks. Okay.
There we go. That's what, yeah.
We've made progress tonight, everybody. I don't have my outline, so I can't ask you the questions they actually asked me, but now I can make the excuse that I did ask you. My debate, I did actually prep something to debate about, not just that stuff. So we in the past have talked about finance and campaign financing and the issue of money in politics. And we didn't, I think it was a good discussion, but there wasn't a huge resolution. And I went back and I looked at some cases. And so specifically, I wanted to talk to you about one case called Ted Cruz versus the Federal Election Commission.
Okay.
It discusses the idea of campaign finance from the perspective of the candidate. And so a candidate in America, you're allowed to loan your campaign money.
Yeah.
And then you can get paid back by the campaign. And there was a rule that said you can't be paid back after you win. So 20 days after you win, the door shuts on that. And there's also a limit to how much you can be paid back of $250,000.
Okay.
In 2022, Ted Cruz challenged this and went to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court was like, it's a form of speech. If you spend money in politics, it's a form of speech. And so I'm paraphrasing heavily, but so we're gonna get rid of that rule. Meanwhile, what actually is happening here is you'll see politicians lend their campaign up to millions of dollars. And then once they get it in, they have this huge debt. And people go, well, that guy now has power. It's not a gamble anymore. I know this guy has power. And they show up and they say, you've got a huge amount of debt. Why don't I pay that back? And they know, the person donating knows, it goes right into their pocket. That money's going back to them. It's not, I'm helping you win, I'm giving you money to help with your cause. No, the money goes to the candidate. Right, it is facilitation of a quid pro quo, and there's even examples of this happening. 2 Kentucky governors were found guilty of crimes for this. A number of other politicians were also, and so.
I feel like
initially, how do you feel
like
about
one of the
that?
big blockers for this is when you just say you shouldn't be able to donate to campaigns after like an election.
Well, see. The hard part is that a campaign is an entity, right? They're an entity, so they don't cease existing. I actually
but donations to campaigns are particular tax advantaged things that you get like a tax receipt for and everything, right? So like if you want to have a tax receipt or if you want to have a donation that qualifies as going to a campaign for a financial reason, then wouldn't we just say, shouldn't you just cut that off at election day?
Well, but couldn't I just have, let's say I wanted the Kafka Esquire campaign but it's not a specific one. It's not for 2026. It's just I have a campaign entity that I use. And once I'm in office, well, I'm obviously going to run again whenever it comes up. So if you want to donate now for the next election, right? It's things like that. There would be ways around it. I understand what you're saying. I agree with you whether some kind of hard rule would solve it. But as far as, do you see that at least as a form of like an issue of money in politics? I
don't know why you would be able to loan your own campaign. I'm guessing that normal FEC limit doesn't apply of like $5,000 whatever dollars.
You can spend as much of your own money on campaigns as you want. It's the issue is when a third party's giving you money, right?
Sure.
So right now we have a limit.
Well, yeah. So the issue there is like I think it's okay for you to spend as much money as you want, I guess, but I don't know why you could loan it to yourself because obviously that's where the weird issue comes in.
Right.
That might be a thing that I don't think I would agree with that. When I think of quid pro quo right now, I'm thinking of Eric Adams, which is way worse than that. But that seems like it would be a bad thing, sure.
Okay. So I just,
I think when it comes to like campaign finance reform, or when it comes to things like Citizens United, I think that there are definitely things that we can look at there that maybe there's a better way to do things. I mean, I'm a huge First Amendment hater right now. You've heard me argue with a lot of people saying that like maybe there are ways that we need to look at how alternative media functions or whatever. And you know, people always throw up these huge red flags immediately where they're like, oh, well, that'll hurt free speech or whatever. And I would say, well, right now, whatever's working or whatever's happening is not working. So if there's a little bit of damage to free speech, maybe we experiment here and then see what that looks like down the road. The main issue that I have with the campaign finance people is they usually come at it as though it's like almost the unifocal point of which all U.S. politics is corrupted, and it's like the single entity that defines our entire U.S. political system. And I just find that there are so many examples where that seems to not be working alongside that people lose their ability to describe what's happening, and then if you can't describe what's happening, you lose the ability to fight against what's happening. The most obvious example being that, so one of the big owns that people had on me a while ago, so I was saying coming in, Donald Trump is doing things that are like hurting the entire US economy, so it seems like all the billionaire money is not helping. And then one of the big owns that people had against me is, oh, well, look, now Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, is happy to work with Trump. And now we're at a world where Elon Musk is no longer working with Trump. So like, I'm not saying that money has no influence whatsoever. I'm just saying there's clearly something else is functioning there that's also like hugely determinative of US politics. And when people become hyper-fixated on the money, they lose the ability to describe and then counteract that.
that's fair. And I think it's understandable that you're running into, and I think this happens to you in a lot of areas, where you run into a lot of bad arguments repeatedly. And I don't know how to say this without being kind of mean about it, but you often will short circuit a lot of arguments, right? I think that you see arguments coming, and so you kind of get ahead of them because you're tired of saying the same thing over and over again.
Sure.
And this is one where I think it's appropriate that whenever someone shows up and says, well, you know, all the people in Congress are bought. However, for me, it's a big deal. I used to do some work in campaign finance stuff before being an attorney, and so it's just, I've seen some different sides of it, and that's why it's kind of a bit of a passion for me. With regards to Donald Trump, I think he, and actually Eric Adams, are really good examples of how we have positions in various forms of government that are especially vulnerable to money. I think that a congressperson or even a senator are actually less vulnerable to kind of the corrupting power of money in politics because their direct power in the government is harder to quantify, and it's harder for them to actually exert it as opposed to a governor, a mayor, a president. And so with Trump, I agree with you about Musk, that Musk is kind of a counterfactual to a lot of this stuff. But whenever you look at, to me, the way that Trump interacted with Musk, you're seeing that Trump is accepting the money to get what he wants. And then once Musk is counteracting it, it's easy for him to throw him away because he already has the money. Whenever you look at, say, some of his executive orders, which I write a weekly executive order report for the Pragmatic Papers, it's really boring. Sometimes there's something interesting, but usually not. There's been multiple really strange executive orders in which Trump is making very specific changes to policy for specific industries. Coal is an obvious one, timber was one, and both of those donated heavily to his campaign, donated heavily to his inauguration ceremony. And then he wrote a specific executive order about nuclear energy. He wrote a couple of them about making nuclear energy more accessible, and they also donated heavily to him. Despite the fact that nuclear is not really part of his platform, there's kind of a GOP, kind of a right-leaning pro-nuclear as a counter to green energy.
Yeah, so again, I'm not going to disagree that there can be corrupting influences here. So there's two big things. So one, the reason why a lot of these arguments get short-circuited is because people usually come with slogans of like, you know, it used to be like corporations aren't people, or we need to get rid of Citizens United, and like that's the be-all and end-all. Yeah. I'd be in favor of a lot of different ways to shake things up. I just like ideas. You know, one of my favorite ideas, and ironically, my good friend, unfortunately is in prison now, not Darius, but George Santos. Oh. I thought he gave me a really interesting idea where he said that if Congress, I guess sometimes you know how they don't actually make a budget, they just pass like a continuing resolution or whatever. Santos gave me the interesting idea where he said that if Congress fails to pass a budget, then in the next election cycle, every single senator and congressman is forced into re-election. I thought it was very interesting that they're not, you have to recycle the entire Congress because they couldn't pass a budget, which is probably one of the most like fundamental basic jobs of Congress is to make sure that they can fund the government, you know? And that's idea, I thought it was really interesting. Yeah, no, why not? So like when people have interesting ideas or things that I think could make positive changes, I'm definitely for it. So that's one thing. The second thing is, I think that people have to be careful. We've talked about this briefly on stream. Checks and balances in the government don't work to limit people from, I think, being ultimately corruptive. They work to limit people in a system that is like, to make sure that the system is working and is fun and fair, I would say, I guess, for everybody involved. right? That like I couldn't put anything in the rule book of Monopoly to help you win the game if your opponent shows up with a knife, right? I can't regulate that. Much the same that when Donald Trump was writing executive, like I don't know what law we could have possibly passed to say the president's not allowed to start a cryptocurrency that he has a 60% ownership in some company. Like it's just impossible to regulate against that. Like these are culture problems. These are culture problems, yeah. And
Well,
yeah, go ahead, yeah.
I hear you on that, and to be fair, like, I did prepare a pro-Trump argument in case there weren't enough people because of the venue change.
Okay.
And I prefer this one. I agree with you. Right now, we're rearranging chairs on the deck of the Titanic, and it's just, I'm interested in it. But
And then also, there's also like the thing that I thought was interesting. So like one of the things that Eric Adams was getting pressed on was like, unfortunately, right? So one of the things people say is like, you brought up earlier, raising money for your election and then how some people could rig that by loaning money to their own election campaign. And there's like this quid pro quo where other people are donating, but it's just to pay the guy back, right? So one of the counters that I often hear are public funding of elections, right? Have the city fund it. And that's the very thing that, in a very ironic way, I guess, Eric Adams took advantage of that public funding by using a foreigner, I think it was a guy from Turkey, to make false donations. So you still had like a quid pro quo there that was rigged because of the fact that they had like public funding for their elections. Not to say that that's a bad thing, they shouldn't do that. I'm just saying that I think that we have to be careful when we design a system. We're designing a system that works well, but you can't design a system against like bad actors. That's like what the police are hopefully for.
Sure.
Yeah.
I agree with you, but at the same time, I would push back lightly on that in the sense that I think it's really important that we construct a system for good actors and for one that bad actors can't take advantage of. I agree with you that the bad actors are going to be there and they're always going to be there and we're always going to have to fight against them. But the law that was struck down in Cruz versus FEC, what it did is it made it so that it was harder to do those things. And it's kind of like, yeah, we're never going to get everybody, but putting those roadblocks up, slowing people down, giving the authorities the time and the tools to be able to catch them, even if it's in the future, is really important. And we're not really disagreeing on anything here. We're just kind of describing our positions. So, but I would say that a lot of our policies, they're not really about creating necessarily like a government that works. It's creating a culture and society that has the motivations that we want in it and the kind of push and pull factors. You say a lot that like the important thing about taxes is to make money for the government, and you're not wrong. But a very important thing about taxes is that it creates the push and pull within the market, within a lot of our society for the things that we want to see. And I think that this is a similar thing. This is whenever we're saying, we want to motivate candidates to fund their own campaign, that's great. If by making it a loan, that way they can get paid back. And then people that aren't wealthy, maybe they put their house up for mortgage, they take that money, they put it in their campaign because they really believe in it, and then they get paid back later. And that was a big argument by the justices who voted in favor of the opinion, is that, these loans help people that maybe aren't, the Donald Trumps of the world, or, people that actually did self-fund. These are for people that they can take that risk, which I like that motivation, but then you're pairing it then with this other one where we need to be able to fence it in for the people that can come in, take advantage of it heavily. How much time do I have?
Just a minute or so. Yeah.
Okay. So Donald Trump, he has succeeded greatly with his tariffs, right? I think you would agree with me. So think about that. Tariffs are bringing in a lot of money, okay? And it's
60, 70, 80 billion or more, yeah, so far, yeah.
And that's 60, 70, 80 billion that our taxpayers don't have to pay. Why do you think that's a bad thing, Destiny?
Well, I guess when the money's being invented and printed out of thin air, and that's why he's trying to pressure the new Fed chair, whoever that's going to be. Oh, and thankfully the one lady just stepped down, I think, this morning, so maybe he can put somebody in there.
With true numbers, with real numbers?
With true numbers, with real numbers. Gloria Semper. Yes,
Yeah.
Can't wait for our 1 billion jobs created every year report coming in, yeah.
So you agree? You agree it's a great one?
I agree, it's a great one, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, put it up for Kafka Esquire. Yeah, great work. Thank you. Just want to let you guys know that, this is, of course, the anti-Trump tour, national tour. We're going to be hitting every state. That's the plan. But we're also launching the anti-RFK Jr. tour. You guys know the king. The king of anti-science. So yeah, we're going to take down the king of anti-science. That's going to feature Professor Dave Explains, Dave Farina, and Debunk the Funk, Dr. Dan Wilson. So they're going to be going after anti-vaxxers on the road. We already have some high-profile anti-vaxxers who are signing up to debate them. On September 13th, we kick it off in New York City. We're going to be back in the Bronxlandia venue, which is the venue we were at with Stephen just recently. When we lost our venue in Queens, Bronxlandia came to save our butts. So, yeah, we hope to see you guys in New York.
Very nervous, but I've been a fan of yours since 2010 since StarCraft 2, so, you know, this is...
Jeez, 2010.
Yeah,
All right.
StarCraft 2
Damn.
player. So,
And you're still a Trump supporter. Where did I go wrong?
yes, but I will mention I am a registered Democrat. However, if I did vote...
Closer to the mic there.
Sorry.
Yeah, thanks.
I did vote. If I had to choose between Kamala and Trump, I would have voted for Trump. I did not. I foolishly voted for Jill Stein. But, you know, that's the position I feel at this day as a, you know, Hispanic American, you know, son of immigrants kind of situation.
Okay.
Should I start with making a claim, or would you like?
Yeah, if you want. Yeah, go for it.
So, I think the easiest one that I would push for is that Trump was the strongest candidate in the 2024 election, based on electability. Charismatic, just, you know, likable.
I mean, I don't like him.
I know. I'm not saying you did.
And I would say for likability, I mean, he's the least, his popularity or approval ratings are the lowest of any president in U.S. history. So I feel like that's kind of hurts that argument a little bit.
I wouldn't say that I liked him, but I found him funnier, more entertaining, you know, like, than Kamala.
That might be the case, but like, I mean, like, it's not a stand-up comedy special. It's President of the United States, right?
I know,
like,
it's kind of hilarious, right? That you would think that, you know, the person who has, you know, the best interest for the... Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that, because hopefully we can agree to this. Do you either agree or concede that all of the candidates, Kamala, Biden, and Trump, have the best interests, you know, they want the best for our country? Do you agree with that, or
absolutely
do you disagree?
not.
No? Okay. So we cannot agree to that. Well...
Wait, you think that Donald Trump has the best interest in the country at heart?
I want to believe so.
Can you explain Trump coin?
For his investors, like his, you know, his cronies, perhaps, yes. I mean, I would concede that.
That doesn't, the investors are not America, right? That's not.
Right, but like, what is, so it's America, okay. So that brings me to think about, okay, what is America? Are we not a capitalistic, you know, like, do you agree that we pursue, you know, the pursuit of, what's the American dream? Like wealth, happiness, something like that. But I'm not saying that he wants that for all of us, but all
Just
of us.
for the people that are investing in his company?
We all, wait, and I'm gonna go to immigration after this, but I guess my response to that is it not like the American dream to have the opportunity to accumulate wealth for yourself and for your children as immigrants or as...
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Just a little closer to the mic there. Dan.
Sorry
Yeah,
about
thank you,
that.
thank you.
So, do I believe that Trump represents, I'm not saying he's perfect, but does he represent the American dream? No, now, if that's for everyone, we can debate that. But, like I said, I'm not the biggest Trump supporter, but I am unconvinced why Kamala would have been a stronger candidate than Trump.
I mean, what area? I mean, we could do like for rule of law. I don't think she would have been as violative of the law as Trump has been.
So in terms of legislation, I know that Trump passed recently the one big beautiful bill. He effectively is giving tax cuts, right? Deregulation, that is his claim to accomplishments.
Yeah, but I mean, for the tax cuts, I think it's kind of bad that he's giving tax cuts without pairing it with spending cuts if your goal was to reduce the deficit and the debt, right?
Right. I mean, I agree that Biden had a more comprehensive, more like long-term thought out probably strategy, but at the end of the day, you're not gonna like what I'm gonna say next, I'm sorry. At the end of the day, I feel like Trump and basically the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, as coming out as a Democrat, I feel like they are two sides of the same coin, which is again why I disillusioned myself believing there could be a third, foolish me for
Well,
thinking
so again,
there
like
could
we
be a
can
third party.
focus on any particular area. I don't know how we can say they're two sides of a different coin when they have incredibly different positions on all the major areas of policy.
Well, I don't really want to go too much on a tangent, but for example, for surveillance, would you decide that Trump or Kamala are more pro, say, Big Brother surveillance state?
Well, given that Donald Trump just recently announced an investigation into Jack Smith because he was unhappy with being investigated by the DOJ, I would say I'm much more fearful of the guy who's writing specific lawyers' names into executive orders that he wants to prosecute, or the guy who's suing media companies because he doesn't like the coverage they're giving him, or the guy who's suing pollsters because he doesn't like the polls that they're issuing, or the guy who is asking for information about students to kick them out of the United States because they might support Palestine, or the guy who's using ICE to kick people out of the country with masks and invoking the Alien Enemies Act to do it, or the guy, I feel like...
Yeah. I mean, I want to talk about immigration exercise. That's very
Sure.
personal for me. But in terms of kicking people out of the country.
Also,
right?
wait, what was the big company? This is like the one story I didn't follow because I usually don't care about this. I want to say Interferon. I know it's not that. What? Palantir. Oh, yeah. Weren't they trying to make some big, fucking list from Palantir or whatever of, U.S. citizen identities and all this shit? Wasn't that a huge deal?
Under the Trump administration?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm sorry. And please educate me. Would that not have happened under any circumstance, regardless of who won
I think
the
it was a
election?
very unique thing that the Trump admin was pursuing, yeah. Most of the things they pursue, they're very special.
I'm not even debating whether or not Palantir will be good or bad. I'm just making the claim that it would be a matter of fact that it would have happened anyway.
Well, but it didn't under 4 years of Biden. I don't think they were ever going to pursue anything like that. I don't think they ever had the desire or expressed the desire to pursue anything like that.
Well, it was the Biden administration, but it would have been Kamala who would have been. I'm not saying Kamala would have been a bad candidate. I'm not saying.
Kamala didn't mention
her.
anything about pursuing relationships with anybody to monitor Americans more closely.
I was going to mention the what is it called? The Counterterrorism Act of 1995, which did not pass, but that was the precursor of the Patriot Act. I think in 2001, Biden had mentioned that, that's basically his bill, but, that somebody else pushed. But I don't want to go into tangents, into
We can tangent as much as you want. When we're looking at the presidents, I don't understand where the equivalency comes from between what Kamala would have looked like to Trump. Kamala wouldn't have written executive orders targeting individual law firms, right?
Right.
Kamala probably wouldn't have gone after individual schools seeking 9-figure payouts for she thought they had DEI or didn't have enough DEI, right?
Well, I like where you're going with that because in my mind, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm, again, disillusioned, but Trump, he has, I guess tactically, he does more actions, whether or not they're good decisions. He is more, I guess, impulsive. He makes irrational decisions, kind of like short-term decisions, where I feel like the Biden, like us in his, passing legislation would have been more, like say, for example, who increased the deficit more technically Biden, but he had countermeasures to kind of offset it. So it was more comprehensive, more, he was more strategic about his policy making compared to Trump, which may seem, short-sighted. You could argue it's more like a Queen's Gambit kind of strategy. It's like, oh, I'm just going to keep, forcing, cash in on my political capital and get the ball rolling now rather than.
This idea of just giving credit to somebody for doing things, I don't think. If I go online, I sign up for, I want a dating coach, and one guy's like, oh, well, I've, fucked 50 chicks, and the other guy's like, I fucked 1,000 chicks. I was like, I'm gonna go with the guy that fucked 1,000 chicks. And then I go to this guy's class, and I walk in and it's Epstein.
Yeah.
The fact that the guy, that's just not a thing that I would be in favor of. Donald Trump has a lot more actions, but I think they're really bad actions, and the fact that he's willing to do a lot of them, I don't think he gets props for that, yeah.
Well, and like I said, I'm upset that you're forcing me to say this, but it's can you not acknowledge the fact that Trump is the only person who apparently managed to get through the threshold of getting elected president while being a convicted felon? Who else can make that claim? I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying he's a hero, but come on, you gotta admit, that's impressive.
A guy who basically led the charge into the election infrastructure of the country, tried to overthrow it, facing charges against it, almost got arrested, was kind of absolved of these charges, came back to rule the government, took over. I'm describing Hitler right now. I'm not joking. That was like this is like his story, like into politics. So like, no, I wouldn't give him credit for that. No, I think that's more of an indictment on the average conservative mindset than it is a credit to Donald Trump. Like, it's not like Donald Trump like rose above his convictions and became a better person. He just doubled down.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, props. I mean, I do that sometimes, but I'm not the president of the United States.
He's a capitalist. He's, he may be selfish, but anyway, I'm not going there. I think, I guess my point on that, and we can move on again to something else, but like I said, my point on whether the electability of Trump is, he's kind of forcing things that would have happened slowly down the line. Like we're living in a standard of living that's unsustainable, and he's basically saying, he is making drastic changes now, which is, I don't agree with, by the way, like him kicking people out of the country, but the laws are the laws. We were going to reach a breaking point.
Except when they apply to Trump, right?
Say what?
Except when they apply to Trump, right?
Exactly. Do as I say, not as I do kind of mentality. Maybe that's him, I don't know. But anyway, like I said, I think he was the strongest candidate.
Well, I mean, like, total. I mean, he won the election, so I mean, obviously that's true. But
for a reason, yeah. Because I'm saying
for a reason, but I don't think those are good reasons. I think it's because of the conservative propaganda model in the United States and the fact that a lot of people have been hoodwinked into believing stuff that's just not true.
Yeah, I didn't make notes of this earlier, but I did make a note of it from a previous guest. So you were talking about a cult. I don't know if you watched Game of Thrones or you.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Unfortunately, or read the books. The books are better.
Not the books, no.
Okay, well, there was this one scene where Tyrion goes like, where does power reside? Do you remember that scene? Like between a king, a holy man, and the rich man. Like, if they all tell you to kill the other two, who gets to decide who lives and who dies, right?
Okay.
And at the end of the day, it's like, it's just a shadow on the wall. Like, anyway, the point I was trying to make with that is like when you talk about
what was the answer? What did he say?
It depends on, when you're, I was going to tie it into like the whole cult statement.
Okay.
Like, how do you define like, who writes the book? Who is the authority? Who is the highest authority? And it depends. And, like it's like, I don't want to say it's a fugazi, but it's like, it's not written in the Bible, like, God or, the Pope or the president. It's like you said, it could be the conservatives, whoever's got the majority, whoever speaks the loudest, and in this case,
it's
that
not
was
written.
Trump.
I mean, it's kind of written into the Bible who the highest authority is, right?
Wouldn't it be God?
Well, yeah, but like the Pope, I mean, if you're Catholic, is infallible when speaking on matters of church doctrine.
It's highly interpretable, right?
No, it's whatever the Pope says, right?
But what if you're not Catholic?
Then you're not really religious, because as a Catholic, I don't agree with.
I respect your religion. I respect your religion.
We call those people non-denominationalists or spiritualists.
I thought you were atheist. Come on.
Well, now I am, but okay, yeah, I don't know. Okay, wait, but I'm just going back to this thing, this idea that like would be the same under the Democrats and the Republicans. I felt like there's this weird world where I would say like the centristy or these legendary Democrat center-left people who all seem to vote for Trump and ardently defend every single thing he says or does,
Which I didn't.
right? Where they say these things where they're like, oh, I think it would have been the same for both of them. There's a thing, people say that like if you want to make a decision between two difficult things, then you should flip a coin. And then as the coin is in the air, however it lands, you can tell like what you actually want to choose based on how you want the coin to land. You might not know that until you actually flip the coin, and then as it's flipped, you're like, okay, God, I hope it lands heads or tails, If Donald Trump would have won, and all of the people that were kind of like indifferent toward, or they said they were indifferent towards the outcome, both sides are the same anyway. If Donald Trump would have won and they would have been like, well, we'll see how it goes, then I would have believed that. But the fact that you have like, Joe Rogan and all these other guys, like painting these tables with cum after Donald Trump wins the election. And they're like, oh my God, I'm so happy it was Trump. Who knows what it looked like afterwards. That doesn't seem like indifference to me.
He's not a messiah. I'll agree to that.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it seems like there was a clear preference. People do think there's a difference between the two. And every single time, like if you were to poll a room of 100 people who are like, both sides are the exact same, why is it that 95% of these 100 people are all voting conservative? It seems like they don't believe they're the same.
I'm not saying they're the same. I'm saying long-term, the outcomes based on policy, kind of like the direction the country's moving culturally, which I agree there's cultural problems, it would have been generally in the same general direction. Like we're all going north, not taking the same roads. We might, deviate. We might,
I don't think there's any road where the United States was tariffing islands of penguins under a Democrat.
Yeah, probably. So
I don't think
again, probably, yeah. No, I will concede that. I mean, like I said, I did.
I don't think there was any road where a Democrat was talking about invading Greenland.
I mean, like you're forcing me to defend Trump, and
Well, yeah, because you've come up here and you said you.
no, but let me wait. There's a reason why I say that, and it upsets me. It's like, and I say this truthfully or just somewhat kindly. Could you please tell me succinctly why I should have voted for Kamala instead of Trump? You know, what is like, what would give me like, oh yeah, Daniel, get excited to vote for Kamala, like she is, you know, the way or whatever.
No, I think it's a bullshit proposition because I think that in any other circumstance in life, it would be enough to give how absolutely horrible one side is versus the other. If I told you that the room on the left was just an ordinary, boring-ass room, and it might even be like a little bit irritating because the light has a buzz, and I say that the other room has like razors that run across the floor, they're gonna slice you up until you die, and I say, you definitely don't wanna go in the razor room, nobody would stand there and argue, well, sell me the other one, right? Like, it's gonna be either Trump or Kamala. We know what Trump is like. We've seen what he did in 4 years. We saw the lies and all the crazy stuff he pushed in the 4 years he was out of office. This idea that you have to make some positive argument on the left when it's gonna be one or the other, no, I don't think you should have to. Now, I would make a positive argument. I would point to all the legislation that Biden did. I would point to the fact that he, for whatever, I love Biden. I'm not going to throw him under the bus like Pisco does, okay? But for all of the tolerating of all the special counsels investigating him, investigating his son, you know, putting Merrick Garland up there to, I'm not going to say he slow-rolled the Trump investigation, but he definitely, you know, they took their time and all of that. I would say that the example set there in terms of rule of law, in terms of how Biden was able to reach across the aisle and work with these demons, okay, that are, you know, by Republican, the fact that he was able to do all this, I would say that was a much more positive direction for the country. And I would hope to have seen Kamala move more in that direction. I'd say those are positive arguments. And the fact that the rest of the world see the United States a bit more reliable. Yeah.
Let me ask you this, and because I think this is why I'm upset about that situation. It's, do you feel, or do you think that the strategy to demonize Trump may have backfired?
Did the strategy to demonize Trump backfire? Every single strategy that you employ against a group of people that are fucking brainwashed will backfire. Like, people will say that demonizing Trump backfired, but Trump like fucking demonizes himself. Like, I don't know, like what doesn't backfire for Trump?
But do you think that half of the country is like part of Trump's cult, or do you think that there's just enough of them that can convince the rest of the population, or enough of the population?
I don't know what it is, but like, how are you not supposed to demonize, like, when you say demonize Trump, right? What were the main attacks against Kamala? Like that she wanted to trans all of our, you know, youth across the country, that they wanted to, you know, let in 50,000 trillion million illegal immigrants in the United States to rape and murder all of our dogs, that they wanted to, you know, sell out the United States to foreign interests everywhere. Like, I mean, demonize, all the Republicans do are demonize. And then the only positive policies that Trump could even talk about for Make America Great Again were, you know, extending the long dick of the United States to fuck every single other country's trade across the planet. And his whole thing was this spite-driven, like, we're gonna get even. These guys they ruined us on all these deals. And my good friend, Abe from Japan, the only guy that apparently he fucking liked across the world, was like, yeah, he would have agreed with me, you know, that all these guys were screwing us up. Like, everything from the MAGA movement is so spiteful and spite-driven and negative about the other side. Like, the idea that these are the guys who are like, oh, don't you think it backfired to be mean to Trump? And it's like, I don't know, like, what wouldn't backfire?
Well, I don't really care about them being mean to Trump. It's just like, at what point do you think, like, okay, are these people telling me the truth, or is it too hyperbolic where, you know, at what point do you say, like, I don't trust the reporting to say, like, okay, he is unqualified. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't up to, like, okay, let's let the people decide and they'll judge for themselves who's the strong candidate.
At what point do you not trust the reporting? I mean, the guy is a caricature of the worst type of person that could ever run for president. Like, what do you mean? Like, what reporting wasn't trustworthy?
No, okay, first of all, I also don't agree with the demonization of the Democratic candidates. Like, first of all, like, I thought Trump was going to lose because of the amount of, like, ad hominem attacks against Kamala. Personally, I thought, even though I didn't vote for Trump, I thought he was going to lose, but I didn't, you know, partake in his, you know, not getting reelected or electing for Kamala. So I expected, personally, I'm just talking.
So did that cause you to change your perspective on maybe negativity actually might be the way to go from the party that has alligator Alcatraz?
I'm still waiting for the next Obama. Like, I was so excited when I turned 18 and I went to go vote for Obama, and I waited in line for 4 hours. I was like, yes, finally, you know, I'm making a difference. We're going away from Iraq war. We're going away from Wall Street. Like, you know, like, our savior has arrived. And then what did Obama do shortly thereafter? He bailed out Wall Street. That was a big, like...
Yeah, we got the Affordable Care Act. You can say bailed out Wall Street, but like the counter was letting the entire financial system in the United States collapse.
Right. No, I have opinions about that, which are, you know,
Final thoughts there, Daniel.
Oh, wow. I wanted to go into immigration. So
I'm just saying, just as a real quick for that, because like I understand that us as Americans, we have a big country and we lose sight of the rest of the world. But like people look at like the bailouts of the banks and like, God, America fucked up with that. We say that as Americans. There is no other country on the planet that's like, God, fucking America. They sure did fuck up when they bailed out their banks. Look at how much America has fallen since 2008 as the financial and investment capital and the tech capital and the military capital and the intellectual capital of the world. Like, wow, America sure did fuck up in 2008. Look at those losers. Like, nobody else thought that except for Americans. Like,
let me wrap up by saying, like, I'm at the point in my life where I feel like compromise is my guiding principle at this point.
And you support the guy who has mean nicknames for all of his political opponents?
Yes, exactly. That's a compromise. That is a compromise.
Maybe a compromise on his morals. What is the compromise? When has Trump compromised with how many people voted for the big beautiful bill on the Democratic side?
He's
what is the compromise?
Tax cuts. He is for deregulation. Do I love deregulation?
Those are all Republican positions. That's not a compromise on any of that.
No, I say for me personally, as a Democrat, to accept that over the...
It's not a compromise when only one side is the one giving everything. That's called getting taken advantage of.
So you would describe myself as being taken advantage of by the Republican Party?
Well, no, because I would probably just describe you as a Republican.
I'm still debating whether or not to switch, but I'm still holding on for hope for a Democratic candidate that will...
You're saying you're debating this. Again, it's like... There's a teenager who DoorDashes food too much to an apartment, and it's like, do I want this guy to babysit my kid, or do I want Ghislaine Maxwell, who's about to get out of prison, to be my new babysitter, right? Because I guess she's gonna be looking for work soon. Well, that's not fair. Donald Trump might put her in a cabinet position, okay, right?
Yeah.
But it's like the fact that there's even a question between these two things, it's like, it's not even remotely comparable. Kamala was more qualified. Biden had a better 4-year track record. Like, the Democrats showed that they were willing to adjust strategy if they needed to. Donald Trump, not only did Donald Trump double down from what he ran as in 2016, like, they just literally buried their head in the sand as the 2020 election was completely rigged. How is there... I'm just so curious. I'm like, give me like one thing where you look at both sides, you're like, well, you know, I think that like, yeah, I have a genuine dispute in how I think that both sides will function here. Without saying trans.
Wait, what? Say that again?
Without involving trans people. What is the one dispute between the two sides where you're like, I kind of see both sides of this issue?
Would I see both sides of this issue?
What is Trump, in your mind, making it a difficult decision on?
Well, I mean, like for starters, the economy trying to keep unemployment low, I think sounds like a reasonable
Unemployment
goal.
was lower under Biden than Trump. After COVID, that's like an accomplishment, right? And Donald Trump came in.
Is your position that Trump would kick out like all Hispanics? For example, I wanted to go to immigration. Is that your position? That is like he is this like foaming at the mouth racist that he wants the worst for us. He's like out to get us.
It's not about wanting the worst. I'm just
whether
saying
if it's true or not. It's
Donald
like
Trump had to say that we were at war with Venezuela to kick out Venezuelans faster. That's crazy to me.
I think it's crazy too. I do not agree.
Why you agree with me? Stop agreeing with me.
Because when you
I don't know why this happens. I don't know how to deal with this. Okay, I don't understand this. Is that every time I just had a conversation?
Because you're describing a caricature rather than like
a alligator. This is like 10 miles from my house. It's not a caricature. It's like real. It's a place.
Do you believe that the president should enforce immigration laws? I mean, I'm not trying to say how he implements it. I'm not even going there about like, okay, he's like, you know, he's racist or he hates brown people. I'm saying like,
it's not. I don't understand.
Is it part of his job?
Here's what I don't understand. Okay, I had a conversation yesterday with a very nice guy. Okay, Ryan, I love him, lawyer guy, cool dude. Every single position that I bring up, it's like, okay, I agree Trump is horrible here. I agree Trump is horrible here. I agree Trump is horrible here. I agree Biden was better here. I agree Biden was better here. I agree Biden was better here. But I'm still having this dispute between both people.
Do I think both Biden or Trump would enforce the border or like, you know, protect the border? I think both of them would. But when you say that one absolutely wouldn't, it makes me question why would you say that, right? What
do you mean one absolutely wouldn't? What are we saying?
I'm saying that both of them have the responsibility to secure the border.
Yes.
Now, when you're saying that one of them wants to deport us brown people because he hates us, I'm like, are you being genuine about that, or are you?
I don't know. I don't know if it's necessarily about deporting brown people or not. But I'm saying in terms of their, like, first of all, just on a macro level, their demeanor towards people of other countries, I think, is dramatically different. I would say that Trump comes across, and the Republicans in general come across as far more insanely fucking hateful than the Democrats do.
There's culture problems. Yes, there are fucking awful culture problems in this country. Yes.
No.
No, but
No, wait. I didn't say in this country, and I didn't say culture problems. I said that the Republicans and Donald Trump and his administration come off as fucking hateful about certain types of immigrants, right?
I would entertain the idea that that is a possibility. Yes. What do you want me to say? Because then the logical
Here's
next
my
step
question.
is to then compare that to the Democratic Party.
If Biden would have created something called white re-education camps and thrown white people into there to wokeify them, would you be saying,
That's bad, yes.
you would say that's bad? You wouldn't say, well, I'm seriously entertaining the possibility that I might be opposed to this.
Well, what I'm saying would
Here's what I'm saying, okay? I'm just kidding, because this is stream live on YouTube.
because
I
you're
can't
going to
say,
talk
hold on,
about
no,
the
no.
education
There will
system
never
because I
be-
hate both sides for it.
This is the difference, okay? Is that the Republicans made fun of AOC for going to the border and saying that she was like taking fake pictures to seem like she cared about an issue. That was the charge from the Democrats. And the Republicans are pushing out videos with like Punisher music
I don't
with
care.
Navy
Okay, I mean, I
SEALs,
do care about
or they're
that, yes.
sending people like Nancy Mace, okay? Half this woman's fucking face is paralyzed from Botox, okay? She doesn't know anything about, she doesn't even know what fucking habeas corpus is when
Right.
questioned in front of Congress. She's taking video in front of Venezuelans locked in cages or people that were deported from the United States locked in cages behind her doing these like badass videos. That difference there, does that not come across? Like, I gotta ask as a, I don't know if you immigrated like later in life or if you were born in the United States.
I was
immigrant
born
parents.
here, but my parents came here.
Okay, does it not bother you that the administration holds that view of people from other countries, from countries
Of
your
course
parents?
it would bother me, like at a personal level, but like on a policy level, okay, if you say, for example, for inner city schools, right? Like say today I was out there handing backpacks, trying to volunteer, trying to make a difference in my local community. It's like, would I be better off with the Democratic or the Republican Party? It's like, how is that going to impact me today to make a difference for kids going to school and getting an education and being more, more functional members of society?
Okay, I'm curious. I'm gonna say, okay. So
At a
let's say-
local level.
I'm gonna, okay, a local level. Let's say that I mask and I don't show you the names. And some guy says, and he comes out and he says, I think that we shouldn't be funding lunches for school children. Do you think that's a Republican position or do you think it's a Democrat position?
To be honest, personally, perhaps I'm ignorant, but I don't know. Perhaps I am just not as educated as the rest of you.
Who cut the Department of Education that just like was 15% of the budget of most of the local schools across the United States?
Yes, I'm aware of the what do you call it, the social programs that were cut by the One Big Beautiful Bill. So do I like
So
that?
how are
No.
we both siding this?
Okay. If it was under the Biden administration, do I feel like we'd be so much better off? That's what I'm waiting to hear about, like the promised land that my
Well, the
party
Department
would
of
offer
Education wouldn't have been cut, right?
Right, there would be more money spent on these social programs. But
So that's one thing, right? Yeah. There wouldn't have been this outward derision and
If you
hatred
would have
aimed towards.
convinced me that my kids would be like guaranteed to like go to MIT under Biden than Trump, then I would have voted for Biden right then and there.
It's not.
Okay, maybe the standards are too high.
Here's what I can
I'm
say.
being hyperbolic,
here's what I say.
but that's where I'm going.
It's not about whether or not your kids would go to MIT. It's that under Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, I at least wouldn't have the question whether or not MIT would exist in 4 years. Okay? Like,
I hope that you're right. I am rooting for that. If the Democrat Party, like, it convinces me that it's not
why
just
do they
lip
have to
service.
convince you?
Because they want,
It's like we're arguing about whether it'd be better to get a hand job from somebody with calloused hands or Edward Scissor Fingers. Like it's not it's not even remotely close on any of these issues. There is no Democratic allocator Alcatraz. There is no Democratic AI Navy SEALs videos going out from the government Twitter accounts about like owning immigrants. There's not making up lies
You're
about
not
like eating the
entitled
cats
to
and the
my
dogs.
vote. I think you have to, like, there has to be a conversation. We have to find some common ground. Better than Kamala. Kamala was not good enough.
So Kamala she was a DA, she was a California Attorney General, she was a senator, then she was vice president. What more did you need, or what else did you want to see from a candidate? Maybe it's not qualifications. What else do you want to see?
And for myself, I hate to say this, but it would be, no, like I said, it's not a great answer, but she was not charismatic enough, which makes me kind of ashamed to say that, hey, maybe she wasn't funny enough, maybe she didn't crack enough jokes, maybe she wasn't like.
If you say, okay, wait. If we say charismatic, okay, isn't the point
Unfortunately, that has to do with the electability of a candidate, does it not?
If that's what the American people want to elect, sure.
I, myself,
isn't it more important to have like a qualified leader than just the guy who can crack the best jokes?
100%.
So then why I just don't understand
I'm still trying to. I mean, okay, even if I can see that all your points are correct, I still have
Well, hold
to.
on, you
I
take a
still-
seat. We don't even disagree on anything
I
so
still
far.
have to wake up and be like, I'm going to go vote for Kamala. Like that still has to happen mechanically, right?
Yeah?
So that did not happen. I mean, I'm
Yeah, but
sorry
I'm
that
trying
I
to figure
didn't
out
vote for
why.
her.
I'm trying to figure out why. Like, what was missing?
I did not feel that she was the strongest candidate. I mean, that's what I said at the very
Because she
beginning.
didn't have the best jokes?
Unfortunately, she just did not appeal to me. I don't know how else to describe it to you.
Yeah, but I'm trying to figure out how.
If you want to go by policies, like I never listened to her long enough in her debate for me to actually like pay attention to, but Bill Clinton convinced me when I saw his 1990 debate with, George W. Bush Sr. And when George W. Bush was saying like, oh, you don't understand the macro level. And then Bill Clinton came out and said like, if there's somebody who got fired, I know them. Like, he related on a personal level on live national television. I didn't see that in Kamala.
Do you feel like Donald Trump, the billionaire real estate mogul
sure he
from
does.
New York City, relates to you more than Kamala Harris?
Not really, no. But more. I mean, sorry. Yes, the last thing you said compared to Kamala. Yes, unfortunately, that's how I feel.
In what way do you feel like Trump relates to you?
I feel like he is more direct.
What?
I feel like he's more direct to the point. Like he is more blunt. Like he doesn't BS. I feel like with
Donald Trump, I feel like... hold on. I feel like Donald Trump BS's on every point that he talks about.
well, he's a better BSer than Kamala. That's all I would say. I mean, do I like either one of them? No, but one's a better BSer than the other.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know what else to tell you.
Stop, chill. Hey, calm it down.
Would you like me to lie to you?
I don't know what the path forward is for Democrats. If the sole qualifier for being, should Daniel Tosh or whatever run for office or?
If he had like an army of like qualified, lifelong government politicians, maybe,
Wait, who has that? Donald Trump didn't have that. What do you mean?
because he probably fired them. I don't know, like.
All right,
That's why I say he's more
final
like a
thoughts
Queen's
there,
Gambit kind
Daniel.
of guy than.
Do what?
He's more. That's why I say he's more like a Queen's Gambit kind of guy than what's the other one? Like more like a traditional opener, like more strategic. Like I said, he's more like speaks from the gut, and maybe he doesn't really think through his positions.
I don't understand what the gambit is that we're playing here. What
He
do we?
sacrifices pawns all the time. That's why he gets rid of people like who don't.
Yeah, but
do what he
he
says.
doesn't like. I'm imagining playing against I don't
not
know. I'm
great.
imagining playing against like a chess master, and I'm
think
just like
he's not that smart,
sacrificing
right? I
every
know.
piece, and I'm like gambit,
That's what I'm
gambit,
saying.
gambit. Like gambit implies like a risk for some reward. Donald
Yes.
Trump just loses.
So you think he's not that smart of a guy? I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like you think
I think he's
like,
fucking retarded, yes.
Okay.
Like for instance, so you talk like here's like this is the easiest thing I ask is like so we say that he's like this guy that like does all these gambits.
I don't think he's a genius. I don't
Sure, okay, that's an understatement. But like, can we think of a single one deal that he got in the 5 years that he's been president that we thought all this gambiting stuff was worthwhile for?
Well, I mean, somebody had mentioned the terrorists. I'm not supporting the terrorists, but
Okay, we don't have any deals from that yet. Just one thing, he had 4 years as
he's
president. and
attempting to do it. But I'm not saying it's a good decision.
what about his first term? What was the one? Was there any amazing, crazy, good gambit deal thing ever?
It's only going to be the tax cuts, which is going to be kind of obvious. Going to be kind of like the one beautiful bill, which I mean, it seems like low-hanging fruit. Why wouldn't he do that?
So tax cut. Well, hold on, wait. So tax cuts were not an amazing gambit. That's just the standard Republican position.
Right. But I'm saying it was a short-sighted move.
No,
and
I'm saying he has this reputation
I
of being this
acknowledge-
amazing deal maker. I don't know what deals he's made.
I can see that when he cuts social programs like Medicaid, like millions of people are probably going to get cut. That's what I'm saying. I don't think he is acting like long-term, but he does make decisions. I mean, I don't understand.
He makes decisions. I feel like we're having a meeting for like a school like IEP for like a retarded student. And we're like, today he walked to class without falling over and hitting himself in the face. And then he wrote all over the piece of paper, which is good.
So what's your explanation on why he won the presidency? How did he? Is it because people are just that cult-minded?
Yeah, right now, yes. Yeah, I think that's the issue.
You think I'm a cult
Yes.
supporter?
Yes.
Really?
Well, because
Okay.
I'd ask you after everything we've talked about, right now you would still think that we did a better job choosing Donald Trump over Kamala Harris. Right now, yeah?
I mean, do I feel convinced after speaking with you today that I'm more
No,
more
that like
anti-Trump?
right now, if you could go back in time and say we should have had Kamala Harris instead of Trump as president, do you think that's true, or do you think we were better off still despite everything that's happened, for Donald Trump being president versus Kamala Harris.
Are you saying that we'd be better off with Kamala Harris? Is that what you're
Right
saying?
now, yes.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Like, I hope so, but I don't know. Like, again, like, if you want me to like say what you want me to say,
No, it's
I
not
will
say-
say
I just-
so, but I don't believe it.
It's not saying, I just don't even know like on what singular possible position we could possibly say that maybe immigration to the border, maybe. But even at that, Biden showed a willingness to support like legislation at the end of his term that would have gone way further than the single executive order that Trump signed. Like, I don't understand how we were so afraid. What were we so afraid of? I'm just curious. What was like a worse outcome? Give me like the top 2 things. You're like, okay, Kamala Harris president, this is what's gonna get fucked up. Like, what would we get so worried about?
Worried about Kamala or worried about Trump?
Kamala Harris, if she would have been elected, what are like the top 2 things you're like, oh, this could go really bad?
This is gonna sound probably bad at this point in time, but I feel like, no, not trans. Do you believe that Trump is the strongest Israel supporter candidate?
Yes, he is. Trump is the strongest Israel supporter.
Okay, and do you support the support of our ally in the Middle East?
I support our ally in the Middle East. I don't think we need to be supporting everything Netanyahu's doing unconditionally right now, though, no?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But then how do you agree with Trump?
At that point in time, during the election,
You think that Kamala would have been a stronger Israel supporter than Donald Trump?
No, I'm saying the opposite.
Yeah, so wouldn't Kamala have...
At that point, I'm talking about during the election season. I'm talking about...
No, but I'm saying right now, I'm saying what would have been a concern for Kamala Harris versus Trump? Do you think that Kamala would have pulled the plug on Israel completely?
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that Trump went on record saying, like, there is no stronger supporter to Israel than I. At that point in time, he said that like I said, his convictions, even if they were false, the messaging was there.
So hold on. So the strongest issue that you have, you're not Israeli, right? Just making sure.
I am not Israeli.
Okay,
Why would I be Israeli?
So the strongest thing that we would have worried about under Kamala is that if she was elected, she might not have supported Israel strongly enough.
Not as strong as Trump. I think that was the claim, and I believe.
But that would have been one of your top issues where you're like, fuck, we fucked up. We didn't help Israel enough.
I'm giving you an example. You're pushing me to say, like, can you
No,
give me
I'm
an
not just, I'm
example?
asking, okay, let's pretend that we didn't do that. I'm just asking, okay, hold on, we're almost done. I'm just asking, like, what is your top 1 or 2 issues? Not just, don't pick a random thing.
Immigration. I said that.
Okay, so the fact that Biden was willing to fully support a piece of legislation that would have incorporated what Donald Trump did as an EO and then gone much further, that wasn't a signal to you that like, oh, well, maybe Democrats could do like better as well. Do you think it would have been just as bad? They wouldn't have done anything on the...
Immigration reform, that's what I'm saying, it would have inevitably happened. There would have been a breaking point. The laws needed to be enforced at some point. It needed a comprehensive resolution.
Well, none of this happened under Trump yet, and it's not going to happen in 4 years, right? Donald Trump will not, there will be no comprehensive immigration legislation by the end of Trump's term.
I don't think it's a net benefit that he's spending more money on ICE, than supporting the people who like grow our foods, do these like really important jobs that, immigration overall is good for the country. That's what I believe.
So you believe
I know. This is gonna be crazy.
Understand.
I know you're gonna, like what I'm saying is that this was gonna happen under whoever was president. He's basically forcing that to happen now.
Why do you think that?
Because unfortunately, he is taking a position where like a lot of people's, I don't want to say racism, but a lot of stuff is coming out that would have. There's no like hiding, like, oh, like I wonder what they really think. It's pretty much out there right now. That's how I feel about the situation on immigration.
And do you think Donald Trump makes that better or worse?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. In the long run, okay, fine, I will answer. In the long run, it will be better because it is better that this happens now than in the future. Because it would have gotten progressively worse. It would have been like a boiling frogs kind of situation.
Any final thoughts there, Daniel?
Hey, I'm sorry. I hope I made some sense. It's a pleasure speaking with
you guys,
I'm still waiting
give
for
some love to Daniel. This is not easy to get up here and do this.
I pray for a Democratic candidate.
Great work, Daniel.
Thanks, I appreciate the combo.
Nice and close to the mic, Nathan.
All right, so I'm not from...
Very
He said
close.
that, you got further away from the mic.
Put your mouth right on the mic.
Right on the microphone.
All right,
Yeah.
so I'm not from Houston. I actually drove here from South Texas. And South Texas used to be like really Democratic, but it's not that way anymore.
Okay.
And a lot of the reason why is because Trump addresses issues that are just being neglected. So a big one is...
Even closer there, Nathan.
A big one is immigration. So this is like a really serious issue. And it's actually the most, and the people who like care the most about it are the people who are directly affected. So a lot of people, they come here, they have good reasons. They want to come because, they're dealing with danger or like high homicide rates from their home country or just economic opportunities. And I understand that. But they come here and they cause a lot of chaos, they cause disorder, and they strain a lot of the essential services in a lot of the localities there. So like my question is, well, first of all, do you support the mass deportations?
No, absolutely not.
So here's like a hypothetical. If there was somebody, they came here, okay, they're in a city, they don't commit any crimes, but they're unemployed, they don't speak English, and they don't really know what to do with them, and they're starting to take over the homeless shelters, and it's like kind of crowded. What do you do with it?
If we're talking about unemployed people that speak very poor English, that are a drain on social services, not to knock my own people, but it sounds like you're talking about white people in the Midwest, okay? The idea that Hispanic people are paying, however many $1,000 to coyotes or whatever else to run into the U.S. so they could be homeless here, that is very exceptional to me.
Okay.
If that was the case, I feel like I would see ICE, make more trips to downtown collections of homeless people rather than like Home Depots or agricultural centers or I feel like that just seems to be where ICE is picking people up from, which is strange to me.
Okay, first of all,
I'll be honest, and I think this is also frustrating too because I think almost every Democrat, or maybe not, I don't know, this is a pretty liberal room, I would agree. Like if you could identify people that were literally just strictly drains on society, so you get a person who's not only an illegal immigrant, but they're literally only leeching social services, they might be homeless or drug addicts or whatever, like, we should probably deport this person. My guess is like more than like 80% of Democrats are like, yeah, probably that's fine. I think most people are like, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So they do have a disproportionately high rate of unemployment, and to be fair, there's something to say about like if you do a mass deportations, it might cause like labor shortage and stuff. So I understand that. But if there's people and the people, like I said, the people who are affected are the people who like care most about this are the people who like are directly affected by it. So like New York City, Miami, you look at some of the California cities, and at the Rio Grande Valley, these people, okay, like when you see somebody on the street or you see somebody at the corner and it's like some Venezuelan lady and she's selling empanadas and she can't speak English, yeah, it's like...
Well, selling empanadas, so it's not like she's unemployed.
Yeah, I get it, yeah. But like...
It's like she's making money, right?
Yeah, but it's like, okay. But at some point, you would like them to be some like kind of ordered system for them to do it. And these issues aren't getting addressed.
Okay, this is what I just fully reject this argument. If it was the case that Republicans laid out some realistic path to making it so that we could have a better immigration system, shore up the people here and figure out what to do with them, then, and Democrats are like, no, fuck you, that's not compassionate or whatever, then I say, okay, that's a good argument. But like, what are the arguments that Republicans have made for dealing with the illegal immigrants already here? What have they said? Have they said anything besides deporting 20 million people?
Yeah, they've said that they need to deport people. And
all of them. They've said basically all of them, right?
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
Okay, so wait, so you don't,
first,
so we don't agree with this.
No.
Wait,
Okay.
I'm just walking through real quick.
Yeah.
So we don't agree with that. You do, like, Donald Trump tried to rescind DACA, and it's, like, for no reason,
Yeah.
right? Okay, and then also, have Republicans said anything about making it easier or doing something to change the immigration process into this country so that people that want to come here and work can do so in an easier manner?
No, I think they want to deport people just because they want them out, right?
Yeah, okay, I agree with you. So then why the fuck are these people we're looking to for immigration policy?
Okay, so if you, this goes back to the central question. If there's a bunch of people and they're overriding the essential services, this could be like, homeless shelters, but also, whenever they get injured, then they have to go to the hospital and obviously they're not going to pay the bill. And then, the city, they have to pay these bills. So what do you do about that?
This is not...
It does happen.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, okay, and here's another...
Hold on.
No,
when
here's
you're
another...
talking about people, when you're talking about the crises that cities are facing with their budgets, like, it's not like, oh my God, we're spending so much money on illegal immigrants.
Okay.
Usually it's stuff related to like healthcare for old people or like upkeep on infrastructure or like Americans' lack of willingness to pay any fucking tax on their fucking income, right?
Yeah, so like
these are the big issues. Like to no offense, but to sit here and cry about like, oh my God, we can't afford anything, blah, blah, blah. And then meanwhile, Donald Trump, just sent me an extra $40,000 check for my fucking tax break. Like, what the fuck is happening here? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me that Republicans are fighting hand over foot to put us further into debt, increase our deficits, help rich people save as much money as possible, and then we're like, okay, actually, I think it's that woman who is selling tamales or whatever on the fucking street who's draining all of our budgets. That's insane to me.
Okay,
I don't understand that.
So, like, here's an example. You see at New York City, and this story is so crazy that I didn't believe it at first, but a lot of the immigrants, they have to, They have to find housing for them. And a lot of the homeless shelters are completely full. And so they put them in hotels in Midtown. And this ended up, well, now they have to pay for the rooms. They have to pay for the hotels in order to do it. And those are like $500 a pop. And so they end up spending billions of dollars just in house the immigrants. And it's at like, what point do you just, what is the solution? What's the long-term solution?
I mean, we can figure out like what to do with these things without saying we have to sign up with the party who wants to deport 20 million people and then rescind DACA and not even provide any actual way to do immigration policy in this country. I don't know why we'd have to swing back that hard.
You have to have some kind of solution, and the solution isn't being met.
The solution was there was a massive bill that would have shored up a lot of our asylum-seeking process. It would have allotted a ton more money for judges to make decisions on who could stay and who couldn't. It would have provided a lot more money for the immigration adjudication system in the totality, and it would have provided more money for border security, and it would have provided like a better way to cap people that were coming over the border if the process was too much. Like, this is what the comprehensive piece of legislation from Congress was going to do that Biden and the entire House and Senate were ready to pass until Trump said no, and now we got an EO to fuck the border for a little bit, and that's it. Like, nothing else is like, what the fuck?
Okay, first of all, Biden didn't do that asylum crackdown executive order until like a year before the election.
Sure.
And second of all, for the border bill, that didn't get addressed until I believe the year of. And I hear what you do say about like, there is such, they are producing legislation to address this, but there is such thing as a little bit too late, because you kind of like, it's fair to say that a lot of the Democratic sponsored bills wouldn't have the level of sincerity that you would expect.
Like, a little bit too late. Like, the fact that the
Yes, of course, yeah.
Yeah, hold on. I don't understand why the Democrats have to be perfect on every single fucking issue, and then when we find, like, I'm not gonna say to argue that it was perfect on immigration. I think maybe Biden could have moved faster on this issue, but like, the United States came out as the fucking envy of the world when it came to COVID and the recovery that we did afterwards, and somehow the Republicans have convinced everybody that I guess Biden single-handedly slowed down every fucking ship on the planet and caused worldwide inflation or whatever. Like, I think that the Democrat transition into the post-COVID economy, for the most part, was unbelievable. Like, if you would have told people prior to COVID, like, hey, what do you think the world's gonna look like if we shut down the US economy for like fucking 3 to 6 months, give or take, depending on your state, how would people survive? People would probably mass starvation, mass homelessness, the mass closure of all these things. And if you were to say, actually, in like 1 year, we're basically gonna be fully financially recovered, our stock market's gonna be back and everything's, like, people would call you fucking crazy, but that basically happened, right? So we managed to achieve that. We managed to crack down on the insane amounts of random global conflict we were involved in. The war in Ukraine escalated massively, for sure.
Okay.
And you had that, but I'm just saying there are all of these different things that Biden, who is supposedly senile, somehow managed to rise to the challenge and face and got us through these 4 years in a pretty exceptional manner. For Trump to come in and give us a Q1 contraction out of nowhere, and then to be tweeting out, Israel turned the planes around, and I think Putin lied to me in our last fucking meeting. And we're like, okay, but the Democrats failed on this one issue. Like, what is the standard? I don't understand, like, what the fuck?
Okay, based off of what you're saying, you're kind of, you're making the argument that you think that Democratic governance does a really good job at addressing a lot of these issues.
Compared to Republicans, yes. I'm saying that you're listen to the cities that you're listing. New York City is complaining about illegal immigrants. Yeah, because nobody wants to go to fucking Birmingham or whatever, right? Not to knock any other cities, right?
Yeah.
And or nobody wants to go to fucking, like, you're talking about the most popular cities in the United States. You're talking about the ones that are producing the most amount of wealth in the United States. You're talking about the ones with the highest, like, contribution to everything that we do here. Like, these are Democrat-ran places with Democrat policies and Democrat culture. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I'm just saying, like, how can we only speak about the negatives on everything and then pretend that, like, Republicans are going to give us a better solution when they're not?
Well, actually, we have a test. We have a test on the quality of governance. It's people voting with their feet. And you see all the time in states like Texas, North Carolina, Florida, states like Idaho, even like Idaho and Tennessee, they're seeing massive increases in...
Where are people going in Texas? Are they going to Plano?
They're going to the cities.
To where? And do you think that Austin? Do you think that Austin looks more like Corpus Christi, or do you think that Austin looks more like San Francisco? Come on.
First of all, Miami is like a legitimately red city now, right?
Miami's a very special place, okay?
It's a legitimately red city. And a lot of the Florida cities, I think, except for maybe like Orlando, maybe one other, they're like actually legitimately red. And Houston is probably as conservative coded as a city as you could see. And it is. Bro, dude, Harris County voted. Harris County. Okay. Harris County is like legitimately 50-50. And okay, it is, dude. It is. Okay. First of all. Let's.
Be nice.
All right. First of all, it's okay. If you look at the population growth, they are just clearly going to southern states, right? And
Because
even
it's more
if-
expensive to live in the blue ones right now, yeah.
yeah. And
But then also notice that these red states are also, now, I don't spend a lot of time in Austin, okay? I don't spend a lot of time in Texas, but I do hear people living in Austin that are complaining about the massive increase in cost of rent. I know that in Miami, we're
That's
people
not
complaining
true.
about...
It actually dropped by 20%. No, Austin, okay, first of all, Austin is building a shit ton of housing, like a lot. Actually, they top every city in the entire country in terms of how much they build. And a lot of the reason for that is because Texas's housing policy is legitimately like really good. So it's like the permitting process is really easy. Even if you want to build like a multi-development, like a multi-family development, you get a permit, you request a permit, the approval process takes like maybe a couple weeks, and then you can just start building. And then as a result, you see like in Houston, you can get a really nice apartment for like $2,000.
Sure.
Or often
Okay,
a lot
I won't
less.
fight you on this. I've heard that it's easier to build in
Yeah.
Texas. My wonderful abundance friends bring this
Yeah.
up a lot, okay? I guess, okay, so going back to when I was screaming at you, okay?
Yeah.
The thing that I don't understand that's frustrating me is like we can point to immigration was an issue that we might feel that the Democrats
Yeah.
drag their feet on despite the fact that there was a bill in front of Congress that everybody's ready to sign. Okay, but we might say the Democrats could have done a better job on that. But I feel like when I look at the Republicans, I look at Donald Trump, I feel like there's like 20 things that I can be hardcore critical of.
Okay.
Why is it that one issue is enough to flip everything? And it's like, well, no.
No, it's a combination of things. And, if for immigration, once again, kind of like people vote based off of their proximity to the problem. And, there's something called like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And it like organizes how the things we care about. And at the bottom, it's
Donald
like
Trump.
food, water, and shelter, stuff like that. And then like a tier above that would be stuff like, like cost of living. So like rent prices and gas prices, I guess. And then also stuff like safety, so like crime. And then also you could say like kind of the disorder. So, if you see an immigrant on the street, I know it's kind of...
How do you even know they're an immigrant?
No, I do. Okay, I'm sorry. If I see a Venezuelan lady selling empanadas, she's an immigrant. I'm sorry. And it is true. And she doesn't, I don't mean this in a derogatory way at all, because... All right. So we kind of order the way that we see things, and so above cost of living and safety and crime, there would be something like familial relationships and loved ones and friends, and then at the very top is ethics, right? It's ethics and self-fulfillment and stuff. Now, if you look at this pyramid, clearly Democrats care a lot about ethics, and I understand that because Trump is really immoral on a lot of levels, But the way that the pyramid works is that you can only really start caring about some of the things at the top if the things at the bottom are satisfied. And if you go, and I know this is a little bit of a caricature, but not too much in some cities, if you see people who are in Philadelphia, who are people drugged out on the street or something, or you feel like a lot of the homeless shelters are being occupied, you're going to stop caring, or you're not going to care a lot less about some of the things that are at the top, such as Trump's ethical failures, some of the con man stuff, if those things aren't being addressed. And this goes back to my central point that Republicans tend to do a lot better job, at least currently, at addressing some of these bottom tier issues that the Democrats kind of neglect. And I think a real reason for that is that some of the solutions to these problems, whether it be immigration and crime is actually going way down, so I give them credit for that. But some things like immigration or kind of public disorder, a lot of these things, the solution can be considered kind of mean, and Democrats kind of drag their feet when it comes to proposing solutions where that solution or the addressing the problem might be considered a little bit mean.
Even if I were to grant that Democrats don't do the best of job on these things, I feel like one, they're kind of uniquely situated to deal with these things in that the cities where people tend to be homeless, right? People tend to be more homeless in places because you've got larger cities and it's where homelessness tends to happen. Larger cities also have the culture that is more, I guess, concurrent with Democratic culture, tend to be ran by Democrats. Is the mayor of Houston, is he a Democrat or is he a Republican? Okay, and then for the last 25 years, it's been I think right. So it's
yeah.
So I just, there are things that a president can do to help. There are things that a president can do that doesn't help. If we're going to say the Democrats drag their feet on some things, like again, for Donald Trump to come in and in my mind hurt in like 52 different areas and then like to barely help in one, I don't see how Donald Trump is putting us in a world where we're more equipped to deal with the homeless population or to deal with like,
Okay,
even if you did care about the things that Donald Trump says that he cares about, he's not even going about doing it in the most effective way. Like he's making it into a giant like shit show and now nobody wants to work with him on anything.
I understand that. And okay, yeah. I think that one of the problems that we see is that a lot of the Republican governance is more effective in dealing some of those problems. And a lot of the Democratic governance, they kind of drag their feet. And even when Democrats kind of like recognize solutions, you know how like Democrats, the way that like they organize, the way that they conduct politics is through, it's highly coalitional. Like if you can get a lot of groups, you know, blacks, gays, unions, and you can like get enough coalition of different groups. And if you make sure that they feel represented and that you care about them, you can get enough people to like get to get over 50%, and then you govern as such. But sometimes you get so caught up in trying to appeal to different groups that you like lose sight of the goal of politics, which is like identifying problems and addressing them. And even in some of the legislation that you talked about, such as the CHIPS Act or some of the infrastructure bills, if you read some of those bills, they're so stacked with so many different stipulations of what you have to do in order to qualify for the funding that a lot of them just don't end up happening. So like the EV chargers, it never happens. Like that, and the rural broadbands, it never happened because there's so much shit that you have to do.
I understand that there's issues with that, and I think that there's like issues to address with that. Yeah. But like, I'm sitting here listening to some of the, not to get into a really touchy issue, but listening to some of the footage from Kerr County where these people didn't want to accept American Rescue Plan funds because they thought that Biden was going to come and fucking steal their homes afterwards. Like there's a difference of problem here, right? Like one is, I very rarely say this, but I will agree with Anna Kasparian that there was a huge issue in San Francisco with their DA where they were like, you know, we're just not going to criminalize shoplifting as much. And I think it was fucking insane. But the voters responded to that. That DA got kicked the fuck out, and they changed their policy on that, right? They course corrected it. People in New York City were complaining about all of the money that was being spent on, you know, a lot of the immigrants that were being housed or whatever, or illegal immigrants to the asylum seekers that were awaiting adjudication of their claims, which is fine. They're like course correcting on that. But I think that the MAGA brain rot is like fundamentally corroding stuff in ways where these are not like good challenges to you know, fix problems. It's just like destroying the entire fucking system and then seeing if anything comes back afterwards. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I dated somebody from Texas, and so fuck Texas because they talk too highly of this place. So let me start out by that. Okay, I hate your state, but okay, I don't want to give you guys too much credit, but holy shit, okay, and I don't want to out my friend here, okay, but I went to the Kennedy Space Center earlier, okay? And so this is like a public project, right? NASA and all of this stuff, okay? And like seeing the Saturn V rocket and all that shit, this like, guys didn't even have real fucking computers back then, and they're sending people, this is like, amazing how much public investment was on all this. And then as I'm talking to this guy, you know, and he's like, I'm really glad I gave you this tour or whatever, because, you know, I'm basically gone in a few months. I'm like, oh shit, like, where are you moving on to? Why are you moving? And he's like, oh, because, you know, they bought off 25% of the NASA workforce with these retarded fucking Doge buyouts. And we're gutting like one of the coolest things that the United States has ever done. And then I see that, and like, these are the people that are supposed to be moving us forward into the future, right? Like, the idea that like Silicon Valley only exists because like NASA was the sole buyer of microprocessors in the 60s and shit, that there was so much money that was being pumped into that from these government-funded projects that were like moving the United States in a direction where the entire country could be proud of it. I guess like, I wish if MAGA was like building anything like that instead of just tearing down and destroying everything, because some people want to complain about some democratic problems, I'd be more amenable to the way they're solving things, but like, Jesus Christ, like the fucking renaming the Kennedy Center to the fucking, you know, Trump Cox Center or whatever, like what is fucking happening on the MAGA side of things? I don't know, I just don't, like what is MAGA building towards? Like when we talk about the immigration thing, like what is the perfect MAGA immigration plan? Because it sounded earlier like you agreed with what I would say. I would give like I don't want to say bad faith, but it sounds like what they want is no immigration and deport everybody.
I definitely understand that. It's just the disorder can like really kind of like mess up with your quality of life. And if you like see like, you know, I repeated it multiple times, but if you see a level of disorder that kind of really I can't explain it, but it's just kind of jarring in a way. It's the same way as like when you see like broken glass on a street. It just really hurts your quality of life in a way that makes you kind of ignore some of the like more conceptual or more ethical concerns that a lot of
Yeah, I agree. I mean, but it's like
yeah.
the wise the adage of more money, more problems, right?
Yeah.
When you got huge cities, you got issues you have to deal with. I agree. There's definitely things to be worked on, but the MAGA solution of just tearing everything down and destroying everything and kicking everybody out and make America great again means make America great again for like 200 million people. Or what did Laura Loomer say? There were 64 million people that needed to be kicked out, which is the number of Hispanic people in here or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the alligator Alcatrazes and the $137 billion for ICE and the horses marching through LA and the military vehicles going up and down the street. Like, I don't know, it feels kind of like a fucking crazy police state. I feel like every city is like becoming this like slimmed down version of Tiananmen Square, waiting to happen. Do you think that, I already know the answer to your question. I'm already sure. Like, if it could have been Kamala instead of Trump, do you think it would have been better at this point for it to have been Kamala, or do you think it's still okay to like write out the Trump thing and see?
Yeah, I think Kamala would have been better.
Oh, okay, well, I guess we have that, okay.
All right.
Wait.
Do you have a final thought, Nathan?
Yeah. I did vote for Kamala Harris, but I'm really, really dissatisfied with the level of Democratic governance, especially at the state level. And I think there's a better future for the party, and I hope to get that. Okay, let me make some shout outs. Follow me on Twitter. SESSOU Studios, Sessi Studios. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me. I need to send you a PDF. Please do, even if it's for 24 hours. Okay, shout out to Andy Bashir. I hope he's the nominee in 2028. I'm certain that he will. He's a really great guy. I'm really confident in him. All right, see you guys.
All right, thanks, Nathan. Really quickly, I like to give at least one opportunity to someone who didn't buy a debate ticket, who wants to come up on stage and ask a question. Put your hand up if you're interested. Okay, let's take a look. Yeah, in the white hat over there. With the big beard. Yeah, come on up.
One thing I had a question on, kind of going back to like the Israel-Palestine stuff, was I heard you say multiple times that international law was actually very important, but anytime I looked it up on your channel, the only thing I saw was a debate where you were arguing the other side, like it actually doesn't matter. So like, could you kind of explain why you ultimately got to where it is like very important?
Well, any law only matters if it's enforced on all sides.
Yeah.
And if one side abdicates the law, then the other side won't play by the rules. And so, yeah.
Because at the time, your argument was, well, the major players that would have bought in aren't. So like the U.S. wasn't part of like the International Criminal Court. Is that what it was?
Yeah, kind of. But like the
and then Israel too. So that was
like
why
the U.S. tries to do its best to hold itself accountable. Like obviously we're not perfect and we make mistakes, but I mean like if major shit is fucked up, like people will get in trouble for it. Israel tries to hold itself accountable as much as people might not like to hear it. Like they could definitely do a better job, but like they roughly try to play kind of fair-ish. But the issue is that like when the entire international community is only pointing to one side, like the side that they're pointing to at some point is going to feel like, well, fuck this, who cares then? Like if no one cares about the other side, then they don't have any buy-in basically.
So it's buy-in from everybody else.
Well, if you feel like you have opponents that can do whatever they want to you, and no one is going to care how they function, it severely decreases your desire to adhere to, I guess, like rules of international law.
Could you give me like an example?
October 7th?
Okay. Well, wait. But that would have been illegal against, well, I guess Palestine isn't a country, so like...
It's whatever you're calling it's mega illegal.
Yeah.
You can't do that. Yeah, not good. But nobody gives a fuck.
But then both sides wouldn't have signed. I'm trying to say like, if they're not signed on to that, so you're saying it happened because they're not playing by the rules of international law. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that like, so there's, oh God,
Sorry,
I forgot
I'm totally
so long.
like
No, you're good. There's a thing called, I think it's called customary international law, I think it's customary international law. Something customary. International humanitarian law, maybe. But basically, there are these ideas where everybody follows these so ubiquitously that it's basically considered part of, like, it is essentially legally binding law. Like, you have to adhere to these
It's
things.
like, almost like murder's wrong. Everybody
Yeah,
around the
basically.
world
Yeah, I think
agrees on
Jus
this.
Cogens, J-U-S-C-O-G-E-N-S,
Yeah.
is like the term that people use for some of these things. And, like, I can't name all of the parts of like the IHL Red Cross website, but I know that like crossing a border, raping people, murdering people, like taking hostages, these are all not okay things to do.
Yeah.
The fact that like it's crazy to me that we hear so many people, reach out to condemn Israel, which they should. Israel's fucked up a lot, but like I don't know where all the people are that are screaming for like, why the fuck does Hamas still have all the hostages, or not all of them, but the ones that they not all of them, but the ones they still have. Like that's insane to me, right?
Right.
Like if Hamas releases all the hostages, that's like that's a huge detriment to Israel's like moral ability to maintain whatever they have in their country that still supports the war, and internationally, the United States, it would hurt the Israeli side a lot,
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. Do I get one question or is it more?
One more minute.
Okay. So I used to hardcore agree with, this is not politics debate whatsoever. I actually really like when you talk about things that aren't politics related, like movies, because you have like, those are your hottest takes
They are. They're
for
the best
sure.
ones, for sure. Are you here to shit on Dune 1?
No, I actually like Dune 1, but sorry. But I thought, I'm a lore guy. Like, I love Metal Gear Solid and stuff like that because of all the crazy bullshit lore that happens in the background.
Okay, yeah.
Right? Actually, have you played Death Stranding 2? Are you going to?
I didn't play Death Stranding 1, so.
You should. It's great.
Okay.
It'd actually be great back to when like you didn't have to pay attention, you just kept playing. Anyways, one thing you hated, which I would kind of debate you on, is I actually think Oppenheimer is a great movie now. The first time I watched it, I hated it. But one of your fundamental problems with that movie was that, it's a bullshit, cameo fest, right? Like, they're just bringing in a bunch of big time actors. I think
that wasn't like a massive criticism against it. My big criticism is that Nolan directed this movie, I would say like a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain this, but if you watch Marvel movies, okay, your brain doesn't have to engage very much because you're constantly moving from scene to scene, and there's always like a soundtrack here to tell you exactly what you should be feeling. And every scene has this like very big like forward energy momentum where you're moving to the next, to the next, to the next. Yeah. You got music telling you how to feel.
Especially Nolan, he goes
and
like a
Oppenheimer
breakneck.
did that a lot.
Yeah. So that one is, first of all, Nolan, if you just go back and watch any of his movies, are all like incredibly fast paced. Like Dark Knight is like a fucking roller coaster.
The Batman movies, sure, but like Memento?
Okay, I didn't see Memento, but if you watch, The
Prestige?
Prestige is pretty fast.
It's kind of
like they're going through their motivations of, is it Christian Bale? They're going through his motivations, like right into the motivations that will ultimately be Hugh Jackson's, where like he killed his wife and all that stuff.
Yeah, no, it is like he definitely moves a bit faster, but I just felt like Oppenheimer was
So,
a lot.
Well, just real quick. So on the cameo thing, I think the reason they did that is so that there are like people who, in historical movies, the big problem you'll have is that you have characters who are actually important, but you don't have enough, you don't care. It's history. It's like, I don't know this guy's name, and if I haven't seen him on a dollar bill, then I don't give a fuck who he is. I think it was a good way of like showing you like, oh, I know that guy. He must be important if they brought this actor
I don't like this because I think that there was a really good movie that did this with cameos.
Okay.
And actually, at first I found it distracting, and then I read what the director said about it, and then I actually agreed with it. Did you ever see 1917?
Yes.
So in that movie, I think there are like...
I only saw it once, so don't...
Sure,
don't
but I think there are like four, I think, like important captain general people. And
it's basically like the break points of the movies.
Yeah,
like,
Benedict Cumberbatch, I think, is one. Oh, God, I wish I remember that.
Benedict Cumberbatch is at the end. The guy
they're
who played the
big
villain
ones.
in Sherlock
And I thought
Holmes,
when I was watching, I was like, these people are like... The fact that like the leads are relatively unknown actors, and you put these huge superstars, I'm like, this is like distracting as fuck. And I remember listening to the director talking about this, and he said that in movies, oftentimes we glamorize and we talk about only the really important figures in history or whatever, but oftentimes it's like just individual soldiers that are doing stuff. He liked the idea of having cameos for these really big generals because it did make them stand out, And with Oppenheimer, so I'm familiar with that argument. I thought
I thought you were just agreeing with me real quick.
No, 1917, I thought they utilized that really well.
Yeah.
But in Oppenheimer, like, is every single person supposed to be a standout? Like, I'm seeing fucking Huey from The Boys here in like 2 seconds worth of scenes. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
I mean, the Mr. Robot thing was the one that got me the most. I'm like, why are you here? And then at the very end, you realize why, which kind of, I think, leads to that, is that The biggest problem is it's such a long movie, but it's actually covering like a really long time period, which is this guy's whole fucking life.
Sure, well, maybe
through
there's
his
a
whole-
more concise story to cover.
Okay, once we got
You
to
know
like
what?
the
Here.
Robert Downey Jr. shit, I
You
was
know
like,
what? I'm ready. I'll concede all of it if you can answer this. Ready? Big
All right,
question.
here we
I'm
go.
going to say, this is, hold on. You have a monumental responsibility because a lot of my audience hates my take on Oppenheimer.
Let's
I will
fucking
say
go.
that Oppenheimer was a better than 5 out of 10 movie if you can answer this question, okay?
okay.
Why the fuck was the most recent stuff in history, why were all those things in black and white?
Oh yeah, that was dumb. Because especially like when I think the movie that does it, like probably the biggest one that does it is American History X, where that was the past.
Yeah.
Well, although, yeah, right? The black and white stuff was all in the past in American History X, right? Okay, just making sure. So like when you've already primed American audiences for that, yeah, that was super weird. I'm like, wait a minute, so this isn't the past? This isn't, yeah, that was fucking stupid.
Agree, yeah. Like Oppenheimer was. I agree, yeah.
Wait, I conceded, so it's better 5 out of 10, right?
No! You had to win the, you had to prove it. Okay,
Oh, I
thank
had to prove that it was? No, that was dumb. I'll
Oh.
give you that.
All right, thank you, thank you.
Appreciate
All right. Now, he has conquered Michigan, he's conquered New York, and now he's conquered Texas. Put your hands together for Donald Trump's worst nightmare, Destiny.